picks now. And once Bill joins us, we'll put that on hold. But we're going to start with the Tigers and Guardians. That's at 1:08 today in about 2 hours and 2 minutes. That game, I'm going to take the Tigers in 4 games. I hope I am wrong. I hope the Guardians win this series, win the World Series. Their bullpen's amazing. This is going to come down to whether the Tigers lead in the 5th or 6th inning. That's really what this playoff series is going to come down to. Holton's pitching today against Beebe. Holton's ERA is better than Tanner Beebe's, 2.19 versus 3.47. And then Scooball's pitching on Monday. So if the Tigers can go into Cleveland and steal the first 2 games, they'll have home field for games 3 and 4. And as long as they handle business, they should win the series, Joey. I'm going to take the Tigers in 4 games. I hope I am wrong. I have a feeling you're going to take the Guardians in 5 games. That would be my guess, simply because Detroit's starting pitching is formidable enough to where they could win 2 games. But you're probably going to take the Guardians at 5 if I had to guess right now. You want to comment on that series before Bill arrives? The Guardians have the best bullpen of any team entering the MLB playoffs. Their bullpen's better than the 2013 Braves. So this is the best bullpen, arguably, in MLB history. So I think the Tigers, the key to winning this series is they're going to have the lead by the 5th or 6th inning. If it's a 1-run game and they're not up by, if it's a tie game or they're only up by 1 run, I think that'll be the key. But yeah, Bill's here. You'll get our other picks later for the MLB playoffs. But yeah, Bill's here. We are going to start the simulator, man. I enjoyed doing this with you last year during some of the college football games. We went through when Colton and the guys. Colton, we had the draft simulator for everybody. It was fun last year.
We did that. Yeah, I agree. It was.
But what we do during the bye weeks, Bill, is we go through each of the teams that are on bye weeks. We go through their draft, and sometimes we'll go through like the contracts. I'll pull that up too, but I'm gonna live stream the draft room. I should have put slow as the draft speed, but I think I already clicked on normal speed. Probably should have clicked on slow, but oh well. I think normal speed works.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine with normal speed. But whenever we're ready to go ahead and get started, I've got my big board and I've got everything ready to go.
I just got to push the start button and then we will be ready to go. The Titans have the 6th pick in the draft.
Okay.
All right. So Bill is on the clock. I'm not going to reject trade offers, but I'm pretty sure. So let's see here. See, I wish they added like a rewind button where you would get all the picks for Okay, here we go. So the big board, the Jaguars took Will Johnson, the Michigan corner, at 1. I think, what the heck did I do that for? I wasn't okay. So the Browns took Kelvin Banks. I know you're not happy about that in real life.
I'm gonna burn this simulator down before we even get started if I see Kelvin Banks drafted by the Browns to start with. But
I did pull up the top 5. So Will Johnson and Mason Graham, back-to-back Michigan Wolverines, go 1-2 to start this draft. The Patriots get Will Campbell at 3, which you have, Joey has, I have. We all have Will Campbell, the Patriots. The Bengals go with Walter Nolan at 4, and the Browns took Kelvin Banks at 5. So that is the top 5, and you're on the clock at 6. I think this pick's going to be Cam Ward in real life, but if you have a different player in mind or, different player you want to pick here, you can. We do have some trade offers as well.
So I am in 100% lockstep with you. It's going to be Cam Ward. If Tennessee ends up picking at 6 and the board falls this way and they get their choice of the quarterbacks, it's going to be Cam Ward. The conversation becomes either Cam or Shedeur Sanders. If you're in that war room, in that draft room,
I think Milroe's in that discussion too, but he's a little bit behind because I have Milroe at 2 and Sanders at 3. But it's basically which of those 3 do you like the best? That's going to be the talking point.
Yeah, I think that right now Milroe's sitting in a conversation for QB3 on my big board. If he continues to play like he did against Georgia, it's going to be a very, very close discussion. I think ultimately the conversation is, I think Cam is better overall as a passer. I think he has the best overall arm talent of this entire class.
Yeah.
When you look at it from arm strength, arm angles, how he has the touch on the ball versus Shedeur Sanders. He's been able to do more with less. That Colorado offensive line is like subway turnstiles. They're letting everyone through at this point. So if you wanted to put Shedeur behind that Tennessee offensive line, which is also another huge need for them, especially on the right side at both right guard and right tackle, you wouldn't have any issue there. But I think Cam Ward's going to be the selection here. I think if Tennessee walks away, if they're picking 6th and they walk away with the top quarterback in this class, I think it's a home run that Carson and Callahan have to take at that point.
Yep. And the Titans, they sent their entire scouting department to California, College game days in Berkeley for the first time ever, and it is Miami Hurricanes facing the California Golden Bears. Big game for Cal. Like, they're rowdy, they're energetic. Beast mode's going to be on College game day today, so yeah.
I also wouldn't be shocked to see the Tennessee Titans also be looking at Xavier Restrepo for Miami and Jaden Ott, the running back for Cal, because while wide receiver and running back are a little bit lower on the board in terms of needs, I wouldn't be surprised to see them take a low.
All right, so no, we're not trading draft picks with the Chiefs. Simulator thinks the Chargers are such a bad franchise that they're going to hand draft picks to the Chiefs like the Bills did when they traded out of number 28 for Xavier Worthy. The Chargers are not that dumb,
right,
that they would trade draft picks with the Chiefs. Come on.
No.
All right, since Swipa's not here, we will do
they're not that.
We will do what else has happened since since Bill took Cam Ward, the Panthers went Benjamin Morrison, the Rams went Travis Hunter, the Cardinals went Deion Walker, and the Giants passed on a quarterback to draft Ashton Jeanty. So they're sticking with Daniel Jones. The simulators said, screw the quarterbacks. We're giving Daniel Jones 1 more year.
Listen, I had this conversation with someone on X this week, and they actually brought it up. It is a good thought to try to build around Daniel Jones again. I mean, granted, they have Malik Neighbors, who's made Jones look serviceable, which is wild to say, but they've been able to do that. So if you're going to pass on a quarterback because you don't feel confident, looking at the board, it looked like Shedeur Sanders was still there. So if you're confident that Sanders is not your guy, then by all means pass on him. For
the
running back
is
at
the
10,
Giants might like Nico Imaleva, Arch Manning more. They might want Arch Manning. That's the other thing. And you can get out of Daniel Jones' contract with less dead cap in 2026. There's a player you love more.
Yeah. My only concern with that is that if Daniel Jones screws the pooch again in 25, I don't think Dable or this Giants GM I don't think they're going to get another bite at the apple. At that point, it would be a complete turnover. of the entire staff, and then you're more likely to go quarterback at that point.
Yeah, if you had drafted another player besides Ashton Jeanty, I'd be making jokes about how Jar Jar Binks has taken over the Giants' war room, but I'm not going to do that to Joe Schoen because I do think this is a good selection, but it does come with some risk.
Yeah.
And I basically said if Swiper or someone else in our group does not want to pick for the Chargers, that Joey, you, and myself would collaborate until we came to a consensus on the Chargers at 11. I'm thinking it might be Tatoria McMillan. McMillan, I don't know how the hell McMillan fell to 11, but he did. Luther Burden's also still there. So
that's my question: is how is Luther Burden still here? How is McMillan still here? I'd be curious to also look at the defensive line and edge talent on the board, because when you look at this Chargers defensive line, you have Khalil Mack, you have Bosa, right? But they're older. They're up there in years. Harbaugh's a defensive-minded guy. He's going to want to build his defense around. So if McMillan or Burden are still there, and in this case you have McMillan, you have Burden, you have Michael Williams, it becomes a very tough conversation in that Chargers war room whether you want to give Herbert his guy of the future or you want to build around that defense and then come back in 26 and get your guy at wide receiver.
I feel like outside the Chargers have stability at quarterback, offensive tackle, and edge rusher. They don't have the positions they got to improve are cornerback, receiver, defensive line. The top 3 defensive tackles on my board are all gone, and the top 3 corners on my board are all gone. I have Walker, Mason Graham, and Walter Nolan as the top 3 defensive tackles. They're all gone. And Benjamin Morrison, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, my top 3 corners are all gone as well. I think it is best receiver on the board, but we can look at the other positions before we make that verdict. As far as the Chargers go, we'll look at the board here. Kenneth Grant and Tyleik Williams are the top 2 defensive tackles on the board. I like both of them, but it's a little bit early.
Best corner on the board is Siobhan Rebel.
Yeah. Siobhan Rebel, according to the simulators, is the best corner on the board. I'm a fan of Denzel Burke and Tacario Davis, but it's a little early for those guys at 11. I'm with the simulator on that. Xavier Watts, Malachi Starks. I like the safeties, but we might be able to get a better safety later in the draft. I think it's got to be receiver here. It's Burden or McMillan, whoever you prefer between those two. That's really
it's. I think at this point, the way the board fell, it's going to be receiver, and it's really a 1A, 1B type of scenario. I've been a huge Luther Burden fan. I've been campaigning for him as a top wide receiver. He's been my wide receiver 1 since the end of the last cycle, but McMillan is right there behind him, and that's not a knock on Burden. That's just how well McMillan has succeeded.
McMillan's made more spectacular catches, and he's bigger, but he's projected to run a 4.5. Burden's projected to run a 4.4, maybe a low 4, maybe a high 4.3. So McBurden is the faster of the two. Which makes the decision all the more difficult.
I would lean Burden here. If it was if it's a team that needs that possession catch guy, now McMillan can make plays after the catch. That's definitely a given. But I think Burden's more electric as a receiver and can make bigger plays. When you have guys like Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston who aren't going to light the world on fire with their athleticism, I don't know if McMillan's going to give you something different already have in the room. So I would go Burden here.
Bill and I are in agreement because Burden's my wide receiver 1 for next week. And this is a preview of the conversation Joey and I are going to have when we break down the wide receiver rankings next Saturday. Burden's my 1. McMillan's my 2. The simulator does have Burden behind McMillan, but Bill and I are in agreement on Burden. Joey, do you have any objections to Luther Burden going to the Chargers at 11? This is a group decision unless Swipa requests a certain player.
Yeah.
And
And I agree with you. I think Burden is a wide receiver 1, and I think McMillan is 1A, just right behind him.
All right, I'm going to lock in Luther Burden as the pick for the Chargers. Saints go Shadur Sanders. Packers drafted Carson Beck. What the hell? The Giants pass on a quarterback, and the Packers take Carson Beck. to replace Jordan Love. I don't understand what the hell is going on.
They're going the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix route. They're going to continuously draft quarterbacks in round one every year and just cycle them out as time allows.
So the Saints got Shedeur Sanders at 12. Cowboys got Tatoria McMillan at 13. To pair with CeeDee Lamb. That is a scary thought, Bill. Tatoria McMillan and CeeDee Lamb on the Cowboys together with Dak Prescott. That's like Micah Parsons' value, Bill, to get him that late.
I think the other scary one is Baltimore getting Nick Scoularton. He's my edge one of this class. And if you put him in that defense, granted, the defense has taken a step back, especially with McDonald taking over in Seattle. But putting him in that edge rusher room, if I see this happen on draft day and I'm an AFC North offensive coordinator, I'm immediately circling every game I'm playing with Baltimore the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Mikael Williams is my edge one. Scorton is my edge two now. He wasn't even in. He was my edge four at the beginning of the year. He's my edge two now. So Williams and Scorton. Abdul Carter goes to San Francisco. He would be a good outside linebacker there. I don't know why the Packers drafted Carson Beck. I'm sorry to Mary of the Mac and Cheese podcast, Tom Grossi, Brian, any other Packers fans watching this. I'm sorry the Packers drafted Carson Beck. Okay, I was going to make a joke, a Jar Jar Binks joke about the Giants not drafting a quarterback, but it's pretty clear that Jar Jar's taken over the Packers war room because I can't really explain why the Packers would draft Carson Beck. I don't have a valid explanation for that. The Eagles are up at 19. It is Joey's turn to pick. What positions do you want me to pull up on the big board for the Eagles? The number one player on the board is James Pierce Jr., the Tennessee edge rusher. Is that who you want, Joey? I know you're a big fan of him. He is number 9 on the simulator.
I would say while Joey makes his selection, I have consistently mocked Pierce Jr. to Philly since I started doing mocks to begin the 25 cycle. I just think he's just a good fit for that Philly defense, and they do have a needed edge rusher from what I've seen. So if he were on the board and I'm Philly, I'm running the card up to the podium, but whatever Joey says for Philly would be the good selection there.
GT got picked by the Giants at 10. GT got picked by the Giants at 10. They passed the quarterback. The Giants gave Daniel Jones another year at drafting GT. So number one player on my board is Malachi Starks, but the simulator gave you an A+, so disregard anything and everything I have to say. Let's take a look at after Joey took James Pierce Jr., the Colts went Tyleik Williams. The Jets went Quinn Ewers. I like Quinn Ewers as a successor to Aaron Rodgers. I know Bill has a 5th-round grade on Quinn Ewers, but in this scenario where he goes to the Jets and learns under Aaron Rodgers, I think that's a good fit. The Raiders get Jalen Milroe. Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say I like the Jets going QB in round 1, but I think that they reached there. I think with Milroe and Nussmeier still on the board, who are both competing for my QB3, I would have liked to see them go Jalen Milroe in New York, or even Garrett Nussmeier, who I think is going to be one of the more coveted guys when we start talking about the combine and we start talking about those workouts, because he's a gunslinger and he has a cannon strapped to his arm. The problem is that same cannon that's strapped to his arm is his biggest downfall. And I did a scouting report on him earlier this week where I watched a few of his games, and he has the ability to just throw it into some very tight windows, but he also needs to learn when to pull that off and not throw all fastballs all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. The Buccaneers go Siobhan Rebel, the East Carolina corner that tore his ACL. Falcons get Emeka Egbuka, the consensus wide receiver 3. Bills get Kenneth Grant, and Savalena, the Arizona right tackle, goes to Seattle. With the injuries Seattle's had at right tackle with both George Fant and Abraham Lucas out, I can't really fault the Seahawks for taking Savalena. I have a third-round grade on him, but they need a right tackle. If they think Savalena is a first-round guy, who am I to argue? And the Steelers get Garrett Nussmeier. All right. Malachi.
I was gonna say I like Savanea. I think he's one of those guys. I worked on a scouting report for him this week as well. That's going to be probably up later today or tomorrow, and he has been very consistent, especially in the pass protection. Last year as a right tackle, 880 plus snaps per PFF. He only gave up 2 sacks, so he is very consistent at right guard or right tackle. He's not going to light the world on fire. He's not going to be one of these top tier guys when you talk about the Will Campbells of the world, but he's a very good glue guy. You plug him in your offensive line, either at right guard or right tackle, you've got a 7 to 10 year starter.
Yeah. And the Lions are in an interesting spot here. It's my pick, by the way. Malachi Starks is number 7 on my board. I'm tempted to take him here because Melifonwu is a free agent, but is Brian Branch playing at safety this year? That's my big thing. If he's playing at safety, I might want to go a different route. But if we draft Starks here, we can move Branch back to nickel corner. I don't like a Mick Robertson. I want to move Branch back to nickel. So I am, instead of just going for the best guard on the board, going for need, I'm going to go for value. And I think Malachi Starks this late in round 1 is a bargain. So Detroit can move So I am going with Malachi Starks. He's number 7. He was number 3 on my board. I had him at number 7, but I moved I moved him down a few spots after the Alabama game. So
the simulator game as my safety 2. Yeah, I was gonna say I have him as my safety 2 tied with Kevin Winston, so he's getting the board a bit for me. So
that's fair. I want to see what the simulator did. So the Commanders, they reached the NFC Championship and lost to the Vikings. They got Emory Jones. The Texans drafted Quashon Judkins to compensate for their running back injuries. The Vikings got Tyler Booker. After losing Super Bowl 59, the Vikings got Tyler Booker, and Tyler Booker is now the Vikings' new starting left guard. And the Chiefs just drafted Colston Loveland to succeed Travis Kelce. And they extended Noah Gray, too. So they now the Chiefs can deploy a lot of 3 tight end sets with the trio of Kelce, Gray, and Loveland. So the Chiefs get Colston Loveland. I know he's not your tight end 1, Bill, so you're kind of relieved they made that pick. Jaguars start off round 2 with Evan Stewart. JT Tuimoloau, the Ohio State edge rusher, who I have a late first-round grade on, goes to New England as a Matt Judon replacement. Takerio Davis ends up on the Bengals as a cornerback replacement to Mike Hilton. And the Browns get O'Marion Hampton in round 2 as a potential replacement if Nick Chubb leaves. Even if Nick Chubb stays, you'd have a running back trio of Chubb, Jerome Ford, and Hampton. And Hampton might be better than Ford. So I like that trio for Cleveland. Titans round 2. Who are some of the top players on your board that still available in round 2?
Well, let's take a look, because where I'm going to be looking in round 2 for Tennessee is I've got my guy in round 1 at Cam Ward. I'm going to look to get him a target in round 2. Just because while I do have Calvin Ridley and I do have D-Hop, they're going to be on the older side when we start looking at that. So looking at who's still available, guys like Isaiah Bond, Trey Harris, right there. Alec Iomanor from Stanford. He is my current wide receiver number 3, right behind Burden and McMillan. His biggest knock, and we talked about it, in the chat previously is that he just runs a lot of slants and 9 routes. You get the ball in his hands and he makes things happen. But with his size, 6'2", 210, the ability to want to go over the middle, he has soft hands, but also has a willingness to want to block downfield that I think this Tennessee Titans team is going to fall in love with. So if I'm pulling the trigger here as Carthen, I'm saying Alec Aomanor is now going to come to Tennessee, and now I have a trio of Aomanor, Hopkins, and Ridley for Ward to throw to. And then when Hopkins and Ridley eventually move on because of injury or age concerns, Aomanor steps right in as wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and Tyler Boyd took the slot receiver job from first-round pick Treylon Burks. So Burks is now the wide receiver 4. He can remain that through the final year of his rookie deal, no fifth-year tender, and you just reload at slot receiver. And basically, if A.O. Manor doesn't beat out Burks for that slot job, you can be concerned then. Or you can redshirt A.O. Manor, have him learn the playbook, learn more routes this year, and then he steps in and he's a 3-year starter once Treylon Burks leaves the team. Regardless of how you do it, you make him earn his play time. But I'm not going to mention Burks and Bill's write-up because that would be disrespectful to him because he doesn't think highly of Burks at all. So
I think I'm one of the few people that says that Burks was and should have been a non-first round selection. So I think they took him under the pressure to try to replace A.J. Brown when they shouldn't have. There were red flags all over his tape from both his route running, from his play style, from his catching, and then there were medical issues as well. He has asthma, which isn't a real major issue, but there were concerns when he was in Arkansas about getting that under control. So I'm not a big Burks guy. That's why I'd pull the trigger here on Iomanor if I'm Tennessee.
The Bears took Connor Lee at left tackle with Braxton Miller underperforming. Jack Sawyer goes to the Panthers. Harold Perkins goes to the Cardinals with B.J. Ojulari's injury. Max Hairston reunites with Drew Phillips, the Kentucky corner the Giants drafted last year. Arion Ursley, the Minnesota left tackle, goes to the Dolphins as a Teron Armstead replacement down the road. And Landon Jackson goes to the Saints as a pass rusher. The Cowboys get another receiver in Isaiah Bond. So we now have CeeDee Lamb, Tatoria McMillan, and you have Bond and Jalen Tolbert competing for that slot job. And the Bears get Kevin Winston Jr., the Packers get Walker out of Georgia. 49ers get Delane, Virginia Tech corner. The Ravens get Ole Gordon. The Broncos get Kyron Lacey. And we're on the clock here. This is a group decision. Let's swipe a comments on who he'd like us to pick. Yeah, I don't like the defensive tackles here. I might go defensive tackle round 3. This is a group decision. I'd say Watts would be the best fit here, but I mean, the options here aren't great. I would say Xavier Watts, Notre Dame's the best option, Bill. But if you've got a different take, or Joey, you've got a different take, I want to hear that. I'm kind of curious.
I would say the conversation for me would be between Watts from Notre Dame, who is my safety 1 on my big board, and then Princely Umamalian, the edge rusher. He is currently my edge rusher number 4. So the conversation becomes, do we want to invest in safety? Derwin James is getting up there in years. Do we want to bring in someone younger where we can use him as a nickel corner, which you can with Watts? Or do we want to invest in the edge room and say, hey, Bosa's getting up there years, Max getting up there years. Let's bring in Princely. Princely can sit behind them for a year, almost like a redshirt year, because he's still growing as a player. So I think the conversation is between those two, which I would be perfectly fine pulling the trigger either on my safety 1 or on my edge number 4 at pick 50 here in the second round.
Princely, I don't know what he's done this year as far as production goes. I like him, but I don't love him as a prospect, and I don't know if the Chargers are going to buy out Bosa at the end of the year. It just depends on whether Bosa stays healthy or goes on IR, I think. I don't think they're going to buy him out. I mean, the fact that they tried to keep him and Mac says a lot, in my opinion. Princely does have 3.5 sacks for Ole Miss so far.
I was going to say the size profile for him is where I'm really intrigued. 6'4", 255. So he has the size to play edge in both a 4-3 or a 3-4 aspect if he bulks up a little bit, but then you can also put him in a linebacker spot. I like what I've seen from Princely. just because I'm going to pull it up here.
1.5 sacks versus Kentucky, 1 sack versus Georgia Southern, 1 sack versus Middle. Wake and Furman kept him in check, but he's still able to get tackles in those games. I would go Watts here, Joey, because I think Watts gives you a guaranteed day one starter next to Derwin James. But if you want depth at edge rusher, you should go with Princely. It's just a matter of, do you prefer depth at edge rusher, or do you want a second starting safety next to Derwin James, which is an area the Chargers can afford to upgrade. I have Xavier Watts at a number 11 on my board, Joey. Actually 12. He's number 12 on my board, and everybody in the top 11's gone. So number 14 player Tate Ratledge is also there at right guard, but I think Watts is a better pick for the Chargers than Ratledge.
Yeah. And I mean, my comparison for Princely right now is Felix Anuduke Uzomah for the Chiefs. So if you want that type of player here at 50, that's kind of what you're going to be getting from him. You're going to be getting a guy that doesn't necessarily light the world on fire, but could develop into that. And
I like Ratledge too. Even though he's missed 2 games with an injury, I love Ratledge. But Bill wants either Watts or Princely Umania. I'm looking at Watts or Ratledge. I feel like it's going to be Watts if we come to a consensus, because I feel like that.
I love Ratledge as a player, but I don't think offensive line's necessarily a need for the Chargers this early. If we get into 4, 5, 6, then we can start looking at those depth picks. But I think Watts is probably the consensus we're going to end up coming to here for the Chargers.
And there's no guarantee Princely's a day one starter unless you buy out Bosa or Mack to save cap space. That's the other thing. If you draft an edge rusher, you're probably developing them, which I'm not opposed to, but I'd rather do that in the 3rd or 4th round compared to this point in the draft when you can get a second day one starter to pair with Luther Burden.
Agreed. Yeah, I like Princely, and I think if the Chargers drafted him, it would be to develop him on the bench, get him into some rotation snaps early, and then in year 2 he takes off, replacing either Bosa, Mack, or both. But Watts isn't a bad selection, despite what the simulator will say.
Is the pick, and the simulator gave us a C+. I don't know why the simulator's got a 3rd round grade, but whatever. I'm not gonna get upset about.
I think they're trying to say it's more of the safety, not necessarily being a need for the Chargers, and it's not necessarily as big a need as we think, but it's still a need with Derwin James getting up there in years.
The Colts drafted another receiver, Nick Anderson, to pair with Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Princely Umanian went to the Jets 2 picks later, and the Raiders took Green. It is Joey's turn to pick again. Eagles at 54. They've had some issues at right guard. Tyler Steele was supposed to start at right guard after Cam Jurgens moved to center to take over for Jason Kelsey. Tyler Steele gets injured. Mekhi Becton is starting at right guard. Tate Ratledge. Is Tate Ratledge still on the board? Yes, he is. Tate Ratledge is there if you would like to make him your selection, Joey. Who else are you looking at besides Ratledge? Because I don't want to just lock that in. You might have another guy in mind.
If it were me, I mean, Danny Stutzman is still on the board for Oklahoma, and I think the Eagles do have a need at the linebacker spot, especially in the middle of that defense. They've invested heavily into the defensive line, and they did again with James Pierce. So I do like Danny Stutzman here if it's Philly. Obviously, Joey might have a different spin on it, but I would say it's either Stutzman for a need or Ratledge just for pure value. Just because I have only 2 first-round grades in this offensive line
Joey's
class.
a big fan of Jeremiah Trotter Jr., so I don't think he's going to take a linebacker for that reason. I might be wrong on that assessment, Joey, but you are a fan of Jeremiah Trotter Jr., so you might wait until the 3rd or 4th round to pick a linebacker. I agree, Bill, it's a need, but I don't know if Joey's going to address that this early in the draft.
Right. I think if that's the case, I have 2 first round grades in this offensive line class. The first one is Will Campbell, who's long gone, and the second one is Tate Ratledge. I think if you're talking a first round grade here at pick 54, whether it's as heavy a need or not, I think that would probably be the selection unless you're not sold on Trotter Jr. Then it would more than likely be Stutzman, who I currently have as a second round grade. It's an early second, so somewhere in the 30 to 40 range. So it'd still be a little bit of a decent value here.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Simmons here, but the Eagles, they have Malott at left tackle, Lane Johnson at right tackle. Lane is getting older. He did miss the last 2 weeks, but I don't think I'm not high on Simmons, but I know Simmons is a guy who's gained a lot of traction. Dame Parson, who's now at Bleacher Report, he's at the Draft Network, thinks Simmons can make a case for OT1 if he continues to play well. So there's a lot of people that like Simmons. I'm not high on Simmons. But
I'm with you. I'm not high on Simmons either. I think he's going to more than likely while he is my O-line 5, he's got a mid-second round grade, and I think his future is going to be at guard at the next level. I just don't see the ability for him to stick outside long term.
I'm taking Ratledge if you pass on him and he makes it to my pick. But if you want someone else be my guest, then let me know when you make your decision. Yeah, I'm going to go with Tate Ratledge here. The Lions are going to need multiple starters at guard. I think, multiple starters at guard. They did lose. They have Zeitler at right guard now, and they have Glasgow until 2026 at left guard. You get Ratledge here. He replaces Zeitler, and you reload. So the Lions get Ratledge, and that Titans don't have a third round pick. I don't know when the Chargers have 81, so we do have another big group decision to make. Yeah. But I'm going to recap us on the draft here. I'm going to recap us here. So what happened is after I took Ratledge, South Carolina safety went. The Texans got Patrick Payton. Donovan Jackson, the left guard for Ohio State, goes to Commanders. That's a really good fit considering Nick Allegretti's in a contract.
I like that fit because
that's
I like that fit because that's going to also allow, if you want to make Brandon Coleman to slide outside to tackle in the future, you have that. I do love the additional fit right there of Luke Lachey to Cincinnati, and Parker is going to love me for this, but he's my tight end 1 on my board right now. So if he ends up in Cincinnati with Eric All, another Iowa tight end, you now have a 2 tight end formation that's pretty formidable in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was the pick I was going to ask you about, but you saw it, you observed, you commented, you chimed in, you're one step ahead of me, Bill. Anthony Belton gets to be reunited with Ekwonu in Carolina. Theo Warren goes to the Rams. Ken LeBlanc's number 1 receiver, Saving Williams, is on the Cardinals. The Giants, they get Williams, the other right tackle on Texas, and T. Hamilton, that's the other?
That's tight. Yeah, that's the other Ohio State defensive tackle, Tyleek Hamilton, which I like that fit here at the end of the second round for Washington.
So they got Tyleek Hamilton and Tyleek Williams. The Patriots get Jabbar Muhammad in round 3. Carmona goes to Dallas. Mondon of Georgia goes to the Bears. Overton goes to Barton, the Utah linebacker, goes to San Francisco. Barron goes to the Ravens. Barrett Carter goes to Denver. So the Broncos snipe us out of Barron Carter. What the heck are we going to do here? at 81. I'll click on all because it's only showing interior linemen. That's not really helpful to us. Okay, so Blake Miller is. Oh, I like Ashton Gillott here. I mean, he had double-digit sacks at Louisville last year. That's a good edge rusher to draft if we want to get younger. That's really good value.
I am gonna 100% agree with you on that. Ashton Gillott is one of my guys. I love that edge. The defensive line as a whole from Louisville, Ashton Gillott, Thor Griffith, the defensive tackle. I think that defensive line as a whole at Louisville is just nasty. Ashton Gillott is slowly developing into one of my guys for 2025. The same way that Marshawn Nealand was last year for me out of Western Michigan. So if I'm the Chargers here, I'm running the card up for Ashton Gillott, and I'm just
waiting
twice.
for Joey to make a counter argument since this is a group decision. I'm with you 100% on that, but if Joey wants to make a counter argument, we're on the Chargers. The Chargers are the team we're making a group decision. Ashton Gillott's the guy we're looking at, edge rusher from Louisville. He would be a backup to Bosa, really good value in round 3. He'd replace Bud Dupree. And you do have Louisville winning the ACC championship. So if that comes true and he dominates down the stretch, he could very easily sneak into the back end of the first. So yeah, Gillott seems like we're all in agreement on Gillott. There's not really it's the first A+ grade we got.
So it looks like Dante Corleone, the Godfather to Las Vegas. I'm going to gush on Corleone here for a minute. I love his play in the trenches. I think he is such an underrated prospect.
Yeah, I know Joey's going to be pissed that the Raiders just took Dante Corleone because Corleone was one of Joey's guys, and the Raiders just took him at 84. One pick before you're on the clock with the Eagles.
Yes. Even though Philly doesn't necessarily have a major need at defensive tackle, I wouldn't have hesitated if Joey had said he's taking Corleone. Because
I think Joey would have taken Corleone at 85, but the Raiders took him at 84, so that does put a wrench in things. What position do you want me to pull up for the Eagles? I can pull up their contracts on Spot Track and do some quick research if you're see who their UFAs are.
I'm going to throw it out there, and I could be wrong, but what about tight end for Philly here? I mean, you have Goddard, who's getting up
but
there.
They don't have a good backup to him. They have Grant Calcaterra, who's decent, but he's not spectacular for a number 2 tight end. Number 1 tight end on the simulator is Jack Veiling out of Michigan State. Oscar Delp is still there. Gunnar Helm is still there. Harold Fannin is still there. Bills tight end 1 and 2 are at 112, 10 and 112. Mitchell Evans is still there. There's a lot of good tight ends still on the board.
Yeah, I would say if I'm picking for Philly, either Fannin or Helm, either one, because that's my tight end 1, my tight end 2. 2 of my top 3 tight ends, the other one being Luke Lachey. And to get that value here at 85, that's what I would pick for Philly. But taking a look and seeing what we've got in terms of
and the other thing is the Eagles lose 2 of their 5 tight ends to free agency. Jack Stoll and Albert O are both UFAs. They have EJ Jenkins. He's on the practice squad. So the Eagles are going to have Goddard and Calcaterra, but Calcaterra is going to be close to the final year of his rookie deal. And Calcaterra is a 2026 UFA. So is Goddard. And the third string tight ends are all free agents. So tight end is going to be a need from a depth perspective. Tight end depth is going to be a need. Not only do you need a third tight end to round out the depth chart, having a guy who's your guaranteed tight end 1 or tight end 2 in 2026, that is a major asset to have. Right guard is a need for the Eagles. If you want to try to find a starter there. I mean, Joey did take Josh Simmons, but Simmons is probably going to start out as the swing tackle. and maybe he'll get an opportunity to play right tackle when Lane Johnson retires after he develops for a little bit. Inside linebacker. I'll pull up the inside linebackers and the interior lineman. Nick Martin is the top linebacker on the board out of Oklahoma State. Jay Higgins is also there. Parker Brailsford, the Alabama center, is the number one center, number one interior lineman. Luke Kandra, the Cincinnati right guard, and Jaden Roberts, the Alabama right guard, are both there. Clay Webb, the Jacksonville State left guard, is also there. If you want to take one of those interior linemen, Joey, but yeah. There are some good options.
I would say the conversation would probably be between Clay Webb, one of those tight ends, and then Jay Higgins, the inside linebacker out of Iowa. I have a top 50 grade on Jay Higgins. I think he just gives a lot at the linebacker position that you need in today's NFL between his coverage skills, between his tackling skills. So I have a top 50 grade on him. So I would say probably looking at either Higgins or one of those tight ends if I'm Philly. But ultimately, it's Joey's decision.
Yep. What interior lineman? Tyler Booker got picked in the first round by the Commanders. Tyler Booker didn't get picked by the Commanders. Tyler Booker got picked by the Vikings in the first round, and Donovan Jackson got picked by the Commanders in the second, and Tate Ratledge also got picked by me in the second. So the best guards on the board are Luke Kandra and Jaden Roberts, the right guards on Alabama and Cincinnati. Parker Brailsford's there if you want to move Cam Jurgens back to right guard, if you want a new center. Clay Webb is there, but the Eagles gave Landon Dickerson a 5-year extension at left guard. But yeah, there are some options there. Jared Wilson's there. I think he's Georgia's center, and Bryce Foster, Texas A&M center, is also there. So there are some options, Joey, for you on the interior. All right, Jarrett Wilson is the pick for Joey here at 85. So he'll bring him in at the center.
Looks like a little bit of a running back run there.
Yeah, I want to go through the picks after Joey took Jeff Wilson. Miller, the Clemson tackle, goes to the Colts. Parker Brailsford goes to the Buccaneers. The Patriots draft Drew Aller to back up Drake May. I don't understand the Patriots have still moved quarterback, and they got Drake May and Joe Built. So, I guess we're gonna have an
I would say
competition.
That would be it. You would draft Aller and ship Milton out for a team basically that trades you a late day 3 pick.
Aller with the Matt Judon pick. So they traded Matt Judon and got Drew Aller back in that trade.
That's not.
I don't understand what the heck they're doing. Wyatt Milliam, the West Virginia left tackle, goes to the Bills. He's probably replacing Spencer Brown at right tackle, if I had to guess, Bill. Nick Martin, Oklahoma State inside linebacker, ends up in Seattle. Jaguars take Nick Singleton to pair with ETN and Tank Bigsby. But at this point, I'm guessing the Jaguars are only going to draft a running back this early if they trade ETN. And there are rumors ETN's available via trade.
Right. And I'd even argue that you could move Bigsby in that scenario and have ETN and Singleton because I think you'd probably get more value for Bigsby at this point.
I agree. Jaden Ott is your running back 2 on the Chiefs, replacing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I really like that fit. Travion Henderson is the Vikings RB2 behind Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones leaves and doesn't resign, Henderson could be an RB1 for the Vikings. Sneaky good value. The Dolphins get Xavier Nwangpa with a comp pick. The Dolphins get Oscar Delp. The Rams get Verling. The 49ers get Dorian Strong. The Jaguars kick off round 4 with Ryan Mills, Notre Dame. Oates, the Alabama defensive lineman, goes to the Browns. And Bill back up at pick 104 with the Titans. So, I'm kind of curious to see who's still on the board.
See what we got here. So, yeah, that's going to be my question, is because there's a few positions obviously that you're going to be looking at if you're the Titans here, and the big ones obviously you're looking at right guard, you're looking at right tackle, or probably your 2 biggest.
The screen turned white. I don't know what happened here. I'm afraid if I click go back, it's going to restart the draft. I don't know what happened, Bill. I'm sorry. This is out of my control.
That's fine.
The screen turned white. I don't know.
I'll say if it goes back and we got to restart, we'll restart.
Yeah, but we'll make this quick. Oh no, it didn't. It didn't restart. We're okay. It's back to
perfect.
You're back on the clock, Bill, but I don't know who the number 1 player on the board is. Jonah Monheim is there. Rod Moore is there. Are you kidding me? The screen turns white as soon. No, it didn't turn white. It's just not showing us who's available.
Okay, let's see.
All right, what position do you want? I'm gonna try to make this as
I would say probably either tackle or interior lineman, depending on who's available there.
Okay, so Monheim, the USC center, is available. Jonah Monheim, he's the USC center. He's available. Cornelius is available. Jack Nelson, the Wisconsin left tackle, is there. Xavier Truss is available. He was the Georgia left tackle. He's available. I mean, there aren't great options at this point, but I'll look at the guards if you want.
Yeah, let's take a peek at guard, because I think guard's probably a bigger need.
Kandra and Roberts are both available, and the Titans have 2 right guards that are UFAs. So Shadiq Charles and Dylan Redunz are both UFAs, so you could get a day 1 starter here at 104 at right guard.
Right, I could. I think the other position we take a look at is the edge rusher. I think edge is going to be on my big need here. And
Dennis Sutton.
We've got some talent here. So I have a current second round grade on Danny Dennis Sutton here at edge. I think here at 104 to get that kind of value, I'm going to pull the trigger on Dennis Sutton. While offensive line might be a bit of a bigger need for Tennessee at this juncture, I've spent my first 2 selections on the offensive side of the ball, and I'd be remiss if I didn't walk away with some form of an edge rusher. Granted, Sebastian Joseph Day is a free agent. James Lynch is a free agent. Coburn is a free agent. McClendon's a free agent. Davidson's a free agent. Those are all interior defensive lineman guys. Yeah. Sutton has the ability to kick inside or out based on his size profile. So I think with that value here, I'm going to go Dennis Sutton and take him here.
All right. And the simulator gives Bill an A+. The Giants finally draft a quarterback in round 4. Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, the first Ole Miss quarterback drafted by the Giants since Eli Manning. And Jackson Dart could be the day 3 steal of the draft. He could be the first day 3 steal since Brock Purdy. I mean, some of these picks are really good, though. Rod Moore goes to the Panthers.
I like it.
I do, too. The Patriots get Xavier Restrepo in round 4 to make up for drafting Drew Aller. They should have just drafted Restrepo in round 3, but hey, apology accepted. I forgive you for drafting Drew Aller. Jonah Monheim, the USC center, goes to the Bengals. The Bills take Bryce Foster. The Packers get Quincy Riley Louisville corner that I have a first-round grade on. That's a really good value in round 4. With Eric Stokes set to be a UFA. Quincy Riley, pair him with Jair. That's really good value in round 4. You know? So... Chargers are back on the clock. Holy shnikey! We're getting another receiver. I'm sorry, but Torrey Horton's still available in round 4. Howard Cross is too. So is Sebastian Castro. This is going to be a hard decision because I think Horton, at this point, it's really too good to pass on. But at the same time, Cross does fill a need on the interior. And so Castro, I have a first-round grade on. So honestly, any of those 3 would be okay with me at this point. Joey, Bill, I kind of want your input here.
So the conversation has to be between Horton and Cross for me. I think Castro's off the board since we took Watts at 50.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to double dip into safety
here. Yeah,
I think it's between Horton and Cross, and I'm only going to go Cross just because our first selection was Burden. I don't see Harbaugh going double dipping in wide receivers in the NFL
especially
draft,
after
even if
the
value's there.
Double dipped at receiver last year with and they Chargers double dipped at receiver in 2023. Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, and they went with Lad McConkey and Brendan Rice. So they've double dipped at receiver 2 years in a row now.
Yeah, and I don't see it making it 3 for 3. At some point, Harbaugh's going to say, we've got to see what we've got in this room. I mean, you can't pass on a Luther Burden if he's there at 11 just because of that value.
You just can't. You're right.
But I think at this point, I think it has to be Cross has to be the selection here.
Joey, what do you think between Horton and Cross in round 4? What would you do if you were the Chargers? Because this is a group decision unless Swiper requests a certain player. I'm not going to get on him about messaging me because he might be asleep. He might be doing whatever. It's cool. But if Swipa tells me he wants a certain player, we will oblige to his request. But, Joey, what do you think here? It's round 4. Horton and Cross are both available. So is Castro. But I'm with Bill. We already took Watts. We don't need to draft a third safety unless we want to buy out Derwin James. And I don't think Derwin played poorly enough to be replaced yet. But, Joey, what are you thinking here between those 3? Bill says we should get Cross because we took Burden. I'm kind of in agreement with that, but I want your input before I lock in Cross as the pick. You there, man? Oh, my audio's muted on TalkShoe. Okay. Unmute me, TalkShoe. All right, Joey, can you hear me? What do you think we should do at TalkShoe accidentally muted me. What do you think we should do in round 4 with the Chargers? Torrey Horton and Howard Cross both made it to round 4, and so did Sebastian Castro, who I have a first-round grade on my safety 3. So all 3 of those guys, Bill said we should go Cross because the Chargers have double-dipped at receiver in 23 and 24. I kind of agree with that, but I want your input before I lock in Cross as the selection. The Raiders take Torrey Horton. Really? I was going to take Torrey Horton.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Raiders have gotten some sneaky good players here. The Raiders getting Torrey Horton, I think that's an upgrade over Trey Tucker. The Saints grab the Washington State tackle Famo. The Cowboys get Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. All right, it is my pick here. I do have a first on Sebastian Castro, so I am going to double dip at safety and add some depth. I mean, Lions don't really need depth at safety, but I'm going to take it because, I mean, let me look at my board here. Let me look at where I have each guy ranked on my board before I lock in Castro as the pick. I have Clay Webb and Sebastian Castro one spot apart from each other, but I have practically the same grade on both. So I'm going to take Castro.
I would say,
I think I can get Clay Webb in the 5th round.
I would say I would go Webb just because then you can easily solve your guard problems in the future, but I'm not going to fault you for taking Castro here. But I would say if Webb's available, now you have Ratledge.
I could get Webb or Fairchild in round 5. That's the other thing, Bill. I've got a 3rd on Fairchild. I've got a 1st on Webb. I could get either in round 5 and get Castro here. That's probably what I'm going to do. So I double up at safety, and I've got 126. So I'm gonna get Webb here. So I get both Castro and Webb in the 4th round. 2 safeties, 2 guards. That's been the draft so far for me. And before we get to Bill's pick for the Titans, let's recap on round 4. So here I took Clay Webb. The Bills get Marvin Jones. Steelers get Wiegman. So they got Nussmeier in round 1 and Wiegman in round 4. Kind of an RG3 Kirk Cousins scenario for Pittsburgh with Nussmeier and Wiegman, Bill. I know as a Browns fan, you don't want to see either quarterback on the Steelers, but
but I think at this point they're saying, hey, Fields and Wilson aren't coming back, so they're going to just replace those with now 2 rookies and just completely overhaul the quarterback room, which I think Pittsburgh is going to go quarterback early in this class, and I can already hear the Steelers fans I mentioned screaming at me. But
Darts and the Giants. So, so T. Johnson, Oregon wide receiver. I think that's Tez Johnson, Oregon senior. He goes to the Texans. The Giants get Jimmy Horn Jr. The Ravens get Luke Kandra as a starting right guard for depth. The Seahawks get Jason Marshall out of Florida. The Bills draft Cade Klubnik to replace Mitchell Trubisky. The Bills take Cade Klubnik in the 4th round. Is that the worst?
Going from a dumpster fire to a dumpster that's not on fire. I think that's the worst pick of the draft by far because Cade Klubnik is down there on my big board, and
Bills and Josh Allen. They don't need Cade Klubnik.
No, I think the one that's really sneaky though is that very next pick of Miller Moss to San Francisco. I like Miller Moss,
and I'm the backup.
Yeah, replace Dobbs as the backup, and if Purdy's financial conversations get a little too high, do you, as Shanahan, say, hey, we let Purdy walk and go with Moss?
Yeah, and the Jaguars kick off round 5 with Dion Lawson, the Alabama linebacker that I had a 3rd round grade on. Sneaky good pick for Jacksonville with their injuries at linebacker this year. Interesting. Round 5, Billy Bowman still on the board. I have Billy Bowman as my number. I have Billy Bowman at 50 on my board, but with Fannin and Helm both there in round 5, Bill is taking a tight end because now he can say, you know what, Chiconkwo.
Yep.
Because don't get me wrong, you like Okonkwo at tight end, but Fannin and Helm is a dream scenario here at this point because now you don't have to pay Okonkwo after his rookie deal is up, and you can upgrade and get your tight end 1. I mean, this
absolutely. It's a great deal because Okonkwo's going to walk. In addition to that, Nick Vannett, he's a free agent this year. He's been a 1/3 of those tight end snaps. So if this board truly runs out this way, I'm running the card up for Harold Fannin Jr. and not even thinking twice at this point.
Yeah, but Bill's like Sonic the Hedgehog in Green Hill Zone. He's just going to spin dash up to the board, turn the card in. Harold Fannin is the pick next.
Yeah.
Chargers are up here. Billy Bowman would have been a good value, but let's recap what's happened since Bill took Harold Fannin. Lane went to the Panthers. Iowa interior lineman Jones. Mitchell Evans went to the Cardinals. Cardinals building a sneaky good tight end room. They've got Trey McBride. They've got Elijah Higgins as their backup and Tip Ryman, the Arizona tight end. I'm guessing Mitchell Evans would be basically competing with I am guessing the Cardinals would choose to move on from Elijah Higgins at that point if they're reloading at tight end. Green out of Marshall went to the Dolphins. Burton, an interior lineman on Kentucky. The Bengals take Zaire Franklin. Zaire Franklin's looked a lot better at Illinois. He dominated at UTSA. He struggled at Ole Miss. He's looked a lot better for Illinois against Penn State. Zaire Franklin in round 5 is a sneaky good pick for the Bengals. Gunnar Helm goes to the Ravens. That's a good pick. The Ravens have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar. Now you add Gunnar Helm to that tight end room. Ravens just keep reloading at tight end, and Billy Bowman, who I had at 50 on my big board, it goes to the Dolphins in round 5. So
I'd argue for the Ravens, if you're taking Helm here, you're probably dangling Andrews, and then you have Likely Helm as your top 2 tight ends in that scenario.
I think you'd have to trade Andrews or Likely. You keep Kolar until the end of his rookie deal, and then you have Helm as your future tight end too. You're probably trading one of those if you get Helm. But hey, the Ravens have drafted multiple tight ends. Jaden Roberts, Alabama right guard, is really good value in round 5. I have Jaden Roberts. I have a second round grade on Jaden Roberts. He's still there. Chargers currently have Zion Johnson at left guard, but they've been rotating between last year's right guard or last year's right tackle, and they've been rotating between last year's right tackle and Trey Pipkins and the Georgia guard they drafted, the Georgia offensive lineman they drafted, Chargers.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Chargers drafted a right guard out of Georgia. He was a tackle. I'm looking at their depth chart here to make sure they have Pipkins as the starting right guard, but they drafted Jamari Salyer. He's listed as the backup left guard, but Salyer is now the backup left tackle. So I don't like Pipkins personally. I like Salyer more than Pipkins. I don't know what the heck the Chargers are doing.
Yeah.
So
right, I agree. I think
Roberts is really good value in round 5.
I'm curious to see what's there in terms of tight end and in terms of running back.
Taylor is my tight end too. I think we could get Taylor in round 6. I would go with I would go with Roberts here, Joey. I'm not opposed to a tight end in the next round, but I think we can get one in the next pick. Yeah. But it's a group decision. Bill, are we on the same page with Roberts here as a consensus? And then we go we look at tight end at 175.
What's the kind of value looking like at running back right now?
Yeah. All right.
On the board.
So we'll go Roberts here. Chargers, we've gotten 3 consecutive A+ grades. You're up, Joey. The Eagles at 156. I'll update you guys. Brunner went to the Saints. Louisiana Moreau corner got drafted by Dallas, and the Bears got Stewart, the Michigan edge. Malachi Moore, Alabama. Moose Muhammad's there if you want another receiver. Moose Muhammad III. I know you're a big fan of his. He's there if you want a receiver. Nazir Stackhouse is there at defensive line, and so is Andrew Mukaba, the Texas safety. So there's a few good options. So is Malachi Moore. So there's a few good options for you, Joey.
I would say if I was Joey, the conversation probably is in the safety room, whether you go Moore or you go Makuba, and I'd lean more towards Makuba than I would Moore. I just have a higher grade on Makuba, but I think safety with the value that's here, that would be the selection I'd make.
I agree, Joey. I did not mute myself. TalkShoe says I'm unmuted. TalkShoe says I'm unmuted. But it's your pick. You've got Malachi Moore on the board. You've got Ethan Burke, the Texas edge, is still there. Nazir Stackhouse, the Georgia nose tackle, still on the board. I know you. All right, Stackhouse. So the Lions are up. Let's take a look at what's happened since Joey took Stackhouse. Jordan Hancock, who I have a third-round grade on, goes to the Colts. Ethan Burke, Texas Edge, goes to the Buccaneers. Malachi Moore goes to the Texans. I'm up, and then Joey has back-to-back picks after I make my selection. And all I've done so far is draft safeties and guards. So I'm looking at my board here. Trey Harris is probably gone. JT Tuimoloau is gone. Quishon Junkins is gone. Kenneth Grant, Rebel, Sawyer, Fairchild, Jabbar Muhammad, Oli Gordon, Tez Johnson. I'm going to see if Logan Parr, the SMU guard, is still available. I probably shouldn't draft a third guard, but this is the best player on my board at this point. I don't see him. If he had a drafted grade, I'd pick him, but I don't see him on the board. Restrepo is gone. Howard Cross, Billy Bowman. Is Kyle Monangai, the Rutgers running back, still on the board? He is. So we're getting another running back to replace Craig Reynolds. And we can buy out David Montgomery, and we can have Gibbs and Monangai as our 1-2 punch in that backfield. So we're going running back for Detroit.
Okay, I like that, actually. I think that's actually a good selection. I think if it's not edge rusher at that point, it's going to be running back, and I'm with you. I think Montgomery's probably going to get bought out, or Reynolds is going to get bought out, and then now you have your third guy.
Reynolds is a UFA next year. He's gone with this running back class. The only question is, do the Lions stick with Montgomery, or do they buy him out and reload in the draft? That's really the only thing I'm asking myself, Bill. But Monangai is a guy I had a second on. He was like my RB5, so I couldn't turn that down in round 5. But Joey, you've got back-to-back selections. Moose Muhammad has not been picked yet. Mukaba's also on the board. So is Lathan Ransom, the guy that Daniel Kelly referred to as my nephew. Daniel Kelly, a first-round mock. He called Lathan Ransom my nephew. I thought that was funny. We're not related, by the way, but I am an Ohio State fan. So I thought that was a funny joke, Bill.
Yeah. If I can tell you right now, if Lathan Ransom is still on the board when Tennessee circles back around for the next selection, I'm pulling the trigger on him and running. I think he's a very underdeveloped safety, and he's a very talented safety. The fact that Makuba is still here as well is just mind blowing to me, because I have a much higher grade on Makuba than most. I currently have him slated.
No, Bryce Foster got picked. Dylan Fairchild, the Georgia left guard's there, but the Eagles gave Landon Dickerson a 5-year extension.
I have a third-round grade on Makuba right now, so the fact that he's still here shows amazing value.
Smooth. I'm going to go through each position. QB, Riley Leonard's the top QB on the board. I know the Eagles have Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett. They're not taking a QB. Mullings, the Michigan fullback, and Devin Neal, the Kansas running back, are the top 2 running backs on the board. I don't think you want to go running back here. Moose Muhammad's the top receiver on the board. The son of Mushin Muhammad, guy you liked. Terrence Ferguson's still available. I'm guessing that's going to be one of your 2 picks with the Eagles, because I know you're a big Ferguson fan, so that might be one of your 2 picks. Jack Nelson, the Wisconsin left tackle, is there. Cornelius, the Oregon right tackle, is also there.
And I would argue that Cornelius can actually play right guard better than he can tackle at the next level. So if you're still looking for an interior lineman here,
yep, you got.
I know you took Jarrett Wilson.
Matthew Gold. I don't think he's on the board. I'll double check. I think somebody picked him, but I will show the wide receiver rankings here. And let's see here. Matthew Golden got picked. Yep. Moose Muhammad's still there. So is Pat Bryant. Jalen Royals is there, Dane Key, Farouk, Hudson, Jaden Higgins, Berrien Brown.
I like Berrien Brown as a wide receiver. He's got an early second round grade for me because he can do much more. He reminds me a lot of Lynn Bowden in the
Andrew
fact that you can put
Armstrong
him
is listed as
anywhere.
311. Joey thought Andrew Armstrong could move into the first round, the Arkansas receiver. He's there at 311. You might wait to take a receiver until the end of the draft, knowing that now. But I don't know if you have any more picks. Oh, this is your last pick. This is your last pick. I think you do have a trade offer from the Cowboys, though. But I don't know. Offers. It's a 5th and a 6th. You get 170 and 191 to move down 4 spots. All right, so the Eagles make a rare division trade with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys take Mushin Muhammad at 169. So Jerry Jones, but you do get another draft pick. So Jerry Jones screwed you out of a good receiver. The Chiefs take Brosmer, the Minnesota quarterback. In the 5th round. I don't even know why. The Cowboys get Donovan Smith to back up Dak Prescott. He will replace Cooper Rush. But, there's still some players available. Dylan Bell, Dane Key, Farouk. There's still some receivers. I can look at some other positions. I'll look at the defensive side of the ball because I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball. There's not a lot of edges I like at this point. Keenan at Alabama is the top defensive tackle. I wonder if Thor Griffin, where he ranks on the board. I'm just curious if he's still.
I would say if he's still here,
that is easily the pick if he's still here. I'm just curious where he is ranked on the board, or if he's even on the simulator, because I've seen him listed in the 300s, 400s on some simulators. It's ridiculous, Bill. Yeah, I mean, Griffin was my DT20 last year when he was at Harvard, for crying out loud. So.
Right. He's currently sitting on my big board as my DT3 behind Dion Walker and Mason Graham, and I have a first-round grade on Thor. It's a late one, so it likely will get pushed into the round 2 with the other positions having higher needs. But, I mean, if he were still here, that'd be the easy selection.
He's not. I scrolled all the way down to the 900s. He's not. No, he is. Thor Griffith is at 188. Simulator does have him available.
Full sprint the card up there. If even though defensive tackle might not be as large a need with Stackhouse being taken, I would take Thor Griffith here just based on pure value alone.
All right. Thor Griffith could be the pick. Jay Higgins, the Iowa middle linebacker, still on the board. He was 3rd in the country in tackles. Maui Oga, the Miami linebacker, is also available. You did not draft an inside linebacker with the Eagles. Could go with Higgins or Fioria. Damani Jackson, the Alabama corner, is there. Ricardo Hallman, the Wisconsin corner that I had a 2nd-round grade on, is also still there. So there's some good cornerback options with Jackson and Hallman. You want to add more depth there. Lukaba's there at safety as well. So is Lathan Ransom and Shiloh Sanders. So there's some good safeties, some good corners, and Thor Griffin. So I think the defensive options are better than the offensive options, Joey. But I also think you want a receiver. But you do have 2 picks because you traded out of the spot you were in. You have 2 more picks left to make. What are you looking at? No, they have a 3rd-round grade on him. The only Oklahoma receiver on the board is Jalil Farouk, 213. Everyone else is gone.
Yeah. I would say if you're looking for a receiver late, some guys that I would be looking at right now, Berrien Brown.
I was working on the wide receiver rankings for next Saturday's show. It took me 9 hours to complete the top 40 for receivers. That's how big of a crapshoot the day 3 is. You could be getting a Jacoby Myers, UDFA as your number 2 receiver in round 4, but you could also get an Anthony Schwartz type player, warm body, that the Browns took in the 3rd round once you get to day 3 of this draft. That's how big of a crapshoot it is on day 3, Joey. Yeah, there are a lot of number guys that can develop into number 2, number 3 receivers, but there's just as many warm bodies that could not make a roster out of training camp. That's why day 3 is so difficult to project what's going to happen at receiver this year.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking at 2 names, it's Barry and Brown from Kentucky. He reminds me a lot of Lynn Bowden.
Yeah.
The fact you can put him in the backfield, you can put him a wide receiver. Another one is Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. He's a very tall receiver in the same mold as A.J. Brown as well, if you're looking for a day 3 dart throw.
Farouk is the pick. So the Chargers are on the board here. We're back on the clock. I think we gotta go with Thor Griffith here, Bill. I mean, I really don't see what else we can do. I'll see if there's a player in my top. I'm gonna see if there's a player in my top 100 still on the board, just to make things interesting. Before we lock in on Thor Griffin. I do have Kansas running back Devin Neal at number 57 on my board. So I will make a case for Devin Neal. I also have Jonas Sanker, the Virginia safety, at 58. But I would argue, as far as value goes, Devin Neal's the best player on my board. I have a late second on Devin Neal. So I will make the case for Devin Neal. Bill will make the case for Thor Griffin. And then Joey, you pretty much have to decide between those 2 unless there's somebody else you like better for the Chargers. So another defensive lineman or running back for the Chargers here. Gus Edwards is going to be back. Dobbins only signed a 1-year contract. So, if Dobbins leaves, the Chargers could draft a running back. This is a big decision because we have 175 and 182. Theoretically, we could get both players. How about we get Griffin here?
I would take Griffith here.
And we get Neal at 182. Is that a fair compromise, Bill? If I think
because even if you don't get Neal, then there's still some running back talent there that I saw in Marks and Raheem Sanders. But
yeah,
and even Taj Brooks, another one of my guys.
Damian Martinez.
So I think the running back would be deeper to come back.
Martinez is still the
there's a lot of talent still at running back.
Yeah. I agree,
think
Bill.
The drop-off would say we take Griffith here and then come back.
I agree. Any objection to Thor Griffith, Joey, the former Harvard defensive tackle? I'm going to lock. Is there somebody you like more than Thor Griffith? Because Bill and I seem to be in agreement on this one. And it is the Charger. This is a group decision. Haven't really commented yet. Oops, I accidentally clicked on the Bills logo. But it didn't reload the page, so we'll go Thor Griffith. Camion Rucker, who I had a first on, just got picked in the 5th round. The Browns get Jay Higgins in round 6. Kobe Bryant went to the Bills. Camion Rucker went to the Rams. Really good value picks in day 3. Devin Neal's still there. So we get Devin Neal at 182. That was the compromise, and compromising worked out. And the Browns take Lathan Ransom in round 6 to strengthen that safety room even more. Bill, you are on the clock at 185. The simulator is recommending the Jack Nelson. They're recommending R.J. Oben, Notre Dame edge. They're recommending Gentry Williams. Shiloh's on the board. Ricardo Hallman, a corner that I had a 2nd-round grade on, is still there. Is there anything that stands out to you at 185, and is there a certain position you'd like me to pull up?
So I will tell you the conversation that I'm having is between the 2 Wisconsin prospects. It's Jack Taylor and it's Ricardo Hallman, because both of them are needs at this point in the draft. Nelson, if we drafted him, the conversation is either Nelson goes to left tackle and Lathan kicks back to the right side, or we just kick Nelson to the right side to start. I think corner and safety are probably bigger needs than tackle at this point, but I do also have a need at right guard if I'm Tennessee. So I'm going to pull the trigger and go Jack Nelson out of Wisconsin here.
Yeah, because you can move Nicholas Petit-Frere. If you move Nelson to left tackle, you can move Latham back to right tackle. You can move Nicholas Petit-Frere inside to right guard and start Nelson at right tackle. That's also an option.
Yeah.
And the simulator gave you an A+. And the Chargers are on the clock here. Ricardo Hallman is a good. I think we should go Ricardo Hallman for the Chargers at 189. We haven't drafted a corner for the Chargers yet. That's one of their bigger needs. That's really good value here.
I agree. I think that's really good value. I think the only question would be what other corners are on the board for this spot.
We can look at the corners really quickly
just to confirm we're getting the best value.
Gentry Williams and Toriano Pride are the only two corners ranked above Hallman. I'm watching the Missouri-Texas A&M game on ABC, and it looks like Texas A&M has the ball here. So we'll watch a play. Toriano Pride. I don't know what number is Toriano Pride. I'll Google that name here because I haven't.
Yeah, I was just saying. I've got the Wisconsin and Purdue game pulled up in the multi-box in the man cave currently, and Wisconsin's offense is on the field, so it'll be a minute before we see Hallman.
Toriano Pride is number 2 on Missouri, and I really didn't get to see the play develop, but I'm looking to see where 2 on Missouri is lined up here. Okay, Missouri's left corner was really physical with pressing.
Yeah.
But number 12 was the corner on the boundary. The field corner must have been number 2. That must have been Toriano Pride locking down the A&M receiver. So Pride's growing on me. I don't have enough information about him to make a verdict, but Pride might be the best press cover corner in the entire draft. He's one.
He's one of those day 3 guys. I like Hallman more than I like Pride.
I agree. I'm with you, Bill. I like Hallman more too. I don't
because I know
we'll go Hallman.
I know what I have in Hallman versus Pride, still somewhat of an unknown.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any objections to that, Joey? Hallman. Some of the other corners are Aiden White, Marcus Allen, Tony Grimes, the UNLV corner in last night's games also. But he's in the 300s. He's significantly lower on the board. I'm with you, Bill. We go, let's go Hallman here. And Joey, you are back on the clock with your final pick. Eagles. No, you got Farouk at 170, but you got 170 and 191 from Dallas.
Say what sort of, if I'm Joey, I'm looking at what sort of value there is at running back and seeing what you can add to that running back room behind Barkley. Damian Martinez is still there. Taj Brooks is still there. There's some heavy hitters in this running back, even though it might not be.
Steelers drafted him. Momfa's off the board. Steelers drafted him too.
Yeah, there's still some heavy talent here.
I love it, Joey. I love the fire and well, there's a running back from McNessie State, Trevante Citizen. His last name is Citizen. You could draft him. I don't think you're going to draft him. He's like at 413 on the simulator. I would pick him, but, I just thought that was a cool last name, and I know you like to draft school guys. Montrell Johnson and Jarquez Hunter, the Florida Auburn running backs, are still there. They're listed in the 600s, but they're there. Roman Hemby out of Maryland is there.
I was gonna say if it's my vote, I would say Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. I mean, we're talking about a guy 5'10", 230 pounds, built like
Terrion Stewart, my RB20. Terrion Stewart's available.
Yeah,
he's there.
I would take Terrion Stewart.
I don't know why he's listed at 804 on the simulator. I mean, he's my running back 20. I don't know why he's listed at 804. And the simulator gave Howie Roseman a D+. So, Howie Roseman, congratulations on putting a stain in Howie Roseman's draft report card.
Right.
I like NFL Draft Buzz too. I love their visuals, Joey. I love their visuals, but the problem is they don't have the draft order updated. That's the only reason we're not using them or PFN. If the Jaguars win this weekend and the draft simulator's updated, then we'll go a different route. But 199, best player on my board here is, I might go with a third safety if Sinker's still... No, he's not. So, Jonas Sinker not available. Jonas Sanker, Harold Perkins is gone. Let's take a look at the tackle situation here. I know the Lions extended. Number 61 on my board is Jalen Travis. I'm checking to see if he's still there because the Lions already have extended Decker and Sewell. If they get rid of somebody, they're probably going to get rid of Ragnow.
I was going to say, I have Travis as offensive lineman number 3 on my board, and right there he is. So
he is available. Jalen Travis is the pick. And I get a D grade for taking Jalen Travis, although Bill strongly disagrees with the simulator.
Yep. I got to disagree with that one, but hey.
We can't always agree with the simulator on prospects. Okay. That was a good pick for the Lions to get Travis as a backup tackle. I'm seeing if Mason Taylor, the LSU tight end, is still on the board. He's my tight end too, Mason Taylor. Chargers don't have a tight end. How do you guys feel about Mason Taylor at this point in the draft? The Chargers haven't drafted a tight end, and your tight end too, Texas, is off the board. How do you feel about Mason Taylor in round 6, 213?
I'm a little lower on Mason Taylor than most people are. I have a round between a round 6, 7 grade, so it's still a good fit here. I would say tight end probably needs to be the selection just to help give Herbert a safety blanket.
This is the second to last pick until round 7, by the way. The Raiders at 214 have the final pick in round 6. So this is the second. So this is basically a 7th round pick. We're getting Mason Taylor in round 7. This is really good value. So even though you're not as high on Taylor as I am, the value here is just too good for you to pass on. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're at. I think this value is just too far to pass.
All right. So the pick is Mason Taylor. And we're back on the clock at 7:22. This is going to be interesting discussion here. I'm going to look at my board, see who the top player on my board is. Is Damian Martinez still there? I don't think do we give the Chargers yeah, we gave them Devin Neal. I do have a third on Damian Martinez. I'm not opposed to drafting another running back, but I'm gonna let Bill make a suggestion here, and then Joey can decide between the two suggestions because it's our last. No, we have 250 as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've filled quite a bit of needs.
Get Martinez at 250. We might be able to compromise like last time, and then.
Just out of sheer curiosity, even though it's not as major a need, what's available on the quarterback board? Because I'd be looking to
Kyle
replace...
McCord is the number 1 quarterback available. Then you got Noah Fafita, followed by Brady Cook, Will Howard, and Jalen Daniels. Dylan Gabriel is also still available.
So I have 3rd round grades on Noah Fafita and Jalen Daniels currently. So I would not be opposed to going one of those two this late in the game just to get a replacement for Easton Stick, just to get a 3rd arm in there. if I had to choose one over the other, I would go Daniels. I think Daniels is a better runner, whereas Fafita is a better
Taylor
overall.
Heineke's the backup. The only question is Heineke on a 1-year deal or is he under contract after this year? That's the other thing.
I was under the assumption it was a 1-year deal, so we're going to double check that really fast to make sure that we're not on the same page.
Yeah, because if the Chargers...
Eason Stick and Heineke are both in the last years of their deal.
Perfect. I appreciate you checking in on that. So, yeah, quarterback is going to be a need if... Yeah, I'm seeing...
Yeah, so if...
All right. Charlie said all the dope in the air made the Cal game day elite. I can't really argue that.
No, I don't think anyone can. I think it's going to be a long day in Miami and Cal, especially since that game doesn't kick off until 10:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
So it'll be a long afternoon for some of them folks. But yeah, I think if the pick here, if either Fafita or Daniels at quarterback, because then you're likely looking at a developmental arm should you not replace Heineke. Or if you do re-sign Heineke,
Daniels graded higher than Fafita. So if we go for quarterback, I would go with Daniels. Running back is my highest graded player, but I'm guessing if Joey's the tiebreaker between running back and quarterback, and we're arguing on this, then Joey's going to say we should take a quarterback here.
Yeah. I have Fafita and Daniels right next to each other in terms of quarterbacks.
I've got Daniels significantly higher than Fafita. I think Fafita's coming back to college. But what's your input on this, Joey? Because you are the tiebreaker vote. You've only provided input when it's your pick and when we made early picks together. But this is a situation where Bill and I are kind of okay, so Joey, I don't know what's going on. Joey did hang up on TalkShoe. I don't know if he's got something else to do. I'm going to find out if his phone died or if and
I mean, I would not be opposed going Fafita or Daniels. I think at this point, both I think are really good value. I have 3rd round grades on both, so I would not be opposed to either of those quarterbacks.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. If Joey's phone died, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get some information. But yeah, one trade rumor I heard this morning is that the Raiders might get 2 first-round picks. They might move Crosby and Devontae Adams to the Lions for Hendon Hooker and 2 first-round picks and a 3rd, which would become a 2nd. That would be a huge blockbuster trade if that happened. And it would almost make the Lions a lock to come out of the NFC if you put Crosby with Hutchinson and Devontae Adams in that Lions receiver room.
Right.
I mean, they'd be the team to beat for sure in that conference. I don't think there would even be a challenger to them if you added those 2 pieces. But that rumor could be BS too.
Yeah, I would say if I'm Detroit, I'm probably not swinging a deal for Devontae, but I'd be swinging a deal. I'd be calling for Max Crosby. I think if you put Crosby next to Hutchinson and you give him a 2nd and a 3rd, I think it likely gets that deal done because the Raiders are going to be in selling mode here in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks if they continue. If the issues continue, I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, I could see the Raiders being a seller. I could see AP being let go. And I floated this to the folks on X this week, but what are the odds that the Raiders let go of AP, the Raiders hire a new head coach in Coach Prime from Colorado, and then draft Shedeur Sanders in the 1st round?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I agree with that. But yeah, once we get this, once we have Joey break the tie, we'll make the Chargers pick here. I'm going to look at the board and see how many picks are left. 222. I've got a pick left. Bill's got a pick left. So Bill and I each have 1 pick left. I've got 2 picks left. And we have a pick at 250. So we have 1 more Charger selection. So Bill's got a pick. I've got 2 picks. And we've got a Chargers selection. So I think, all right, Joey, Bill and I have a disagreement on what we should do with Chargers 7th-round pick. I want to get another running back. He wants to get a quarterback. I like Jalen Daniels more than Noah Fafita, but those are the two. Bill's got Fafita one spot ahead. We need you to break this tie between Noah Fafita and Jalen Daniels here in the 7th round. The Arizona quarterback and the Kansas quarterback. Those are the two we're debating on in round 7 if we go quarterback here. I got the Kansas QB grade a little higher, but all right, Noah Fafita is the pick here. The Chargers, they are charging up the draft podium. No, the simulator's charging. The Chargers aren't charging. The simulator's charging, trying to trick us into drafting Brady. Bad simulator. And the Steelers draft a 3rd quarterback, Kyle McCord. Unreal. Steelers have come away with Garrett Nussmeier, Connor Weigman, and Kyle McCord. All rookies.
All rookies, and yet still are going to struggle at quarterback this season. So let's go. If you're a Pittsburgh fan,
though, you know, Bill, I think that's a really entertaining scenario. That's all I'm going to say on that Steelers quarterback scenario. I don't think it'll be. I don't know if it'll work out for them, but I think it's a really entertaining scenario. Yeah, number 1 player on my board is Damian Martinez. I'm seeing how many. Yeah. I'm seeing what else we can do besides drafting a running back. I'm not saying I'm opposed to drafting a running back. I'm looking at our options and seeing, all right, what can we do with the Lions that doesn't involve drafting a quarterback here? So.
Let's see. If you're looking Lions and you're looking at,
if the Lions do draft I don't see the Lions drafting 2 running backs unless they buy out Montgomery. I think they'll get at least one with Craig Reynolds being a UFA, but if they make the Super Bowl, I don't think they're going to buy out David Montgomery just yet.
I was going to say the only other one that I would probably look at, which we haven't looked at, is interior defensive line, because Aleem McNeil is a free agent. He's had 66% of their snaps this season, but I don't know if the value is going to be there at defensive line that we're looking for. This may be just a best player available for these final 2.
Basically, I'm looking at the 2 best players on my board here. So the only 3rd rounders on my board that are still available, I'm looking to see what the value is here. I think Kobe White is gone. So Kobe Bryant, yeah, he's gone. I remember him getting picked on the simulator. I have Caden Salter and Jalen Daniels as my 2 highest graded quarterbacks.
You could go Jalen Daniels if you wanted to move off of Hooker. If the Hooker rumor comes true, you're now in the market for a backup behind Goff and developmental arm. So if that's a path you can take it at either 229 or 240.
Yeah, I'm seeing what's available because I think a slot receiver. Dan Campbell said we need a slot receiver upgrade. I'm going to look at what's available at receiver here before I because the best overall player on my board is Damian Martinez, but I don't think the Lions are going to draft multiple running backs. I don't. As much as I like that idea, I don't think they're going to do that in real life.
No.
Okay. Michigan State wide receiver Antonio Gates Jr. is on the board. Son of Antonio Gates. That is a very I don't know if he gets drafted, but there's a temptation to draft him here.
I would say it's getting into slim pickings the further we go down. I do like Jacoby George as a late day 3 guy out of Miami. I think he's with him and Restrepo. Cam Ward has definitely raised their stock, so that's another one we could look at. Jerand Bradley. Now, I have a second-round grade on Jerand Bradley out of Boston College. I think he is
Ricky
making that
White
Boston.
is still there. I have a third-round grade on Ricky White. I think that's going to be my pick at 229, the UNLV wide receiver.
I would take it too. I like Ricky White as well.
I'm glad I made that decision. You would have grabbed him if I didn't.
Mm-hmm. So, out of sheer curiosity, what trade offers do we have? Because there's two players I'm trying to swing for, so I'm trying to see if there are any.
2026, 20.
It's 26. Okay.
26,
No,
5th, and 7th. So
that's fine. So there's two needs that I'm looking at, but I'll only be able to hit one of them here. Let's click over to the kickers. And we're going to see if my top kicker on my big board is available. It's Jesus Gomez out of Eastern Michigan, but it doesn't look like he's in the simulator. So we'll go with
that's drafted player. That's no, he's not. So I'm showing all the players at kicker.
Yeah.
And I guess none of kickers have been drafted yet.
Yeah. Which now the other one, let's take a look at punter. Because all three specialists, punter, kicker, and long snapper, are on their final year of their deal here for Tennessee.
So, yeah, they've got Ross James, McPherson, Bakia, Max Fletcher, Burnett, Mastromano, the Florida State.
Mastromano's still there.
Yeah.
All right. So now if I'm still looking at Tennessee's needs, I've solved most of them. The one
I'm going to pull up the long snappers just for the hell of it. I don't think you're going to pick one. Jackson Lee out of the
FIU. Yeah, would be the best one. Let's take a look at wide receiver again and see who's here. Jaden Higgins, I like him as a big body guy. Will Shepard is still here. Colby Young is still here. Let's see.
I will scroll down as far as possible. I know you don't want Gates Jr. Squirrel White, not bad value, but not probably not your top choice.
I think comparing it to my board right now, my top value is going to be
there.
Yeah.
Singer, former Arizona receiver that transferred from USC and Utah, still there. Dorian Singer. Colin Lacey's still on the board. The Louisville receiver that Joey likes, he's still on the board. Brew McCoy at 802 is still there. Theo Weiss is available. I'm going to scroll down as far as possible before Nick Nash of San Jose State also is the last receiver eligible from that list. But yeah.
I think at this point we're going to go ahead. We're going to lock in wide receiver Jaden Higgins from Ohio State as the final selection.
Jaden Higgins, Iowa State receiver. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking to see if there is a tight end on my board. Gavin Bartholomew's there, but I really don't know if I like any of these tight ends. I mean, we do need to get a second edge rusher. Let's see what we have to work with here. I mean, I'm not opposed to drafting another running back, but I want to see what our edge options are before I commit to that. Demon Clowney out of Charlotte. Is he related to Jadeveon Clowney? If he is, I might take him.
Right.
JJ Weaver, the Kentucky player, he's not a bad prospect. I think I had a third on him at one point.
No, I have a day 3 on Brian Aglue out of Miami of Ohio, so he would fall right in line here late.
Let's see what we got at defensive tackle. There's not really a player I love as far as the edge rushers go. It's round 7. Tim Keenan, Dominique Demonic Orange. His last name is Orange. Knock, knock. Who's there? Orange, you glad I sacked your opponent's quarterback?
Right. Tonka Hemingway out of South Carolina is another player I like if you're looking at defensive tackles here late.
Damone Payne, it's probably related to Deron Payne, both Alabama's. Tyreek Sapp, is that Warren Sapp's son? I think that might be Sapp's kid. I don't know. I'm going to look that up.
And Missouri looks like they're going to be in trouble, already down 17-0.
Yeah, I'm about ready to flip this over to TBS for the Tigers-Guardians game. We were making some MLB predictions, and for everybody in the thumbnail wondering why we're not making MLB predictions yet, Bill wanted to come on and he showed up just as we were about to start breaking down Phillies-Mets. I do have the Phillies sweeping the Mets. I think that's going to be a very one-sided series with the Phillies pitching. Joey took the Tigers. Joey took the Guardians in 5. I took the Tigers in 4. I'm rooting for the Guardians to win the World Series. Cleveland's MLB team is the only one of my favorite sports teams that hasn't won a championship in my life. So I'm rooting for them, but I'm not confident. The Tigers were my preseason pick. I'm just seeing if this guy is related to Warren Sapp. No, he's not. All right, so it's my last pick here. I really don't see a player I like at defensive tackle.
I would say if you're looking for a day 3, if you're looking for a day 3 flyer at defensive tackle, it's probably going to be Tonka Hemingway. But I think
Jason Henderson might be a good outside linebacker for depth at this point. Old Dominion. I mean, his tape.
His tape's not great, but I do have a day 3 flyer on Jason Henderson. He is the last rated linebacker on my board. So he's definitely somebody that if you're looking for
Nick
a day
Jackson's
3 guy
also on my board, but I don't think the top with Jack Campbell, first round pick at middle linebacker. I think if the Lions draft a linebacker, it's probably going to be an outside linebacker like Henderson more so than a Mike linebacker. But they paid Anzalone a 3-year extension. I think they still have Malcolm Rodriguez for 2 more years. And they still have Derek Barnes. So I think the Lions, I'm not opposed to that, but I'm seeing what my options are. Grimes is probably the best corner I can get. What do we got here for corner? Prophet Brown at USC, Devonta Smith, Tyreek Chappell at a Texas A&M is not bad value at $654. I think that's a little low for him. Tyreek Chappell, Texas A&M corner. Yeah, he's still available. Ventrell Cypress is available. Florida State's gotten off to a really bad start. I'm not taking Cypress. I don't hate these options, but at this point, it feels like my best option is either second run. Jonas Sanker's still on the board. Okay, I had Sanker in the second round. I'm going to pick Sanker to end this draft, get a third safety, really maximize my safety depth. And that will be the pick there. So Kirby Joseph on an extension and then 3 safeties, 2 starters, 2 backups, really maximizing that safety room. Best player on my board is still Damian Martinez, but if there's another player you got in mind, Bill, let's hear it.
Yeah. I like Damian Martinez, but the fact that we've already gone at running back, I don't see them double dipping.
All right.
Corner probably is the next big selection that I would make, just because, I mean, you're looking at Asante Samuel Jr. in the final year of his deal, so you're going to want somebody but this late in the ball game.
And we've got Cam Hart and Ricardo Hallman, but we need insurance if those 2 day 3 picks don't pan out.
Exactly. The other one I would look would be interior offensive line, maybe seeing if there's still a
I like Joshua Gray. I got a 4th round grade on Gray. I mean, he was Oregon State's left tackle when they had Fuaga last year. If we drafted a guard, I'm not opposed to that, but I'm not sure that's the best option. There's also some small school guards from Montana State and Middlebury. If we want to draft a small school player, there's also a Sacramento State guard. So there's a few options as far as small school guys. If we're going to draft a small school guy, we have to do it here.
I would say I am also fine with Josh Gray. I have a day 3 grade on Joshua Gray from Oregon State right now. I think he fits better as interior guy than he does outside. So, but the Chargers definitely need to add some insurance along that offensive line. So I'd be perfectly fine with Joshua Gray here.
Let's do Joshua Gray. And all right, so it's loading the draft results. I'm kind of curious. Mr. Irrelevant was the tackle from William and Mary. The Bears took a tackle from William and Mary as Mr. Irrelevant. So quickly here before we sign off, I'm going to go through the simulator's grades. So Bill, he got a C+ for Jaden Higgins, but he got a B or higher for every other pick. So that averages out to a, I'd say that averages out to an A- because you only got 1 B and 1 C+. You could argue that averages out to an A, but I would say A- was Bill's overall grade. Our group grade, we got 1, 2, 3. We got 5 A+ with the Chargers, 1 A grade, 2 C+ grades, and a B+. I would say we averaged out to an A- for the Chargers. So the Chargers and the Titans. Joey here, I'm looking at Joey's draft grades here. A+, B+, C, B, B, C, D+. I would say that averages out to a B-. That's the simulator talking. Really.
Yeah.
Well, you got 1 A+, 1 B+, 2 Bs, 2 Cs, and a D+. So that probably averages out to a B or a B- if you take all the grades and add them up. The simulator gave you a D+ for Terry and Stewart. I don't know. Yeah, it's not me. It's the simulator. The simulator gave you a B+ for Simmons, a C for Wilson, a B for Stackhouse, a B for Ferguson, a C for Farouk. They gave you an A+ for Pierce, though. Simulator gave me simulate. Yeah. Simulator gave me a B+ for Starks and a B+ for Castro, and A for Ratledge. That averages out to an A-. But then you take the fact that Webb and Monongai were C grades. That downgrades me to a B-. The Sanker C+ pushes me up to a C. But then I got a D+ and a D for Jalen Travis and Ricky White. So that takes me down to a C-, maybe even a D+ for draft grade. But I got more C's than D's. So I'll give myself so that averages out to a C- for me. So even though Joey, even though the simulator was harsh on Joey, the simulator still gave Joey a better grade than me, which means I need to do a lot more film study for this year. But, it's early. It's our first one. And before we get into our baseball predictions, I want to look at who we have next week in case Bill wants to come back. I want to look at the week 6 buys, if that's all right. Just take a second buys for next week. Because this was fun. Good trial and error experience. I know the Chiefs have a week 6 bye. I do not know who the other teams on bye weeks are in week number 6. That's kind of what I'm looking up right now. Because I will pick
the Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Vikings next week.
Oh, yeah. If the Chiefs and Vikings both win, then I'll pick for the Chiefs. Joey or Bill could pick for the Vikings. The Rams, we should get – if Jake we had Jake Ellenbogen on last year. If we get him back on, we could have 4 people in the simulator. I don't know if he'd be interested, but if we got him back on, we'd have 4 people. He could pick for the Rams, and Bill could pick between the Dolphins and Vikings. I mean, that is an option. If he's not interested, we can just reach out to somebody else. But yes, Swipe, I know, is an NFC West enthusiast, so I think Swipe would be. Next week will be fun with the Rams, Vikings, Chiefs, and Dolphins on bye weeks. Next week will be fun. I like those. I like those teams. I like those lineups. Weigman is 12 for 16. He's about to beat Missouri, and I'm about ready to flip it over to TBS. TBS, I want to watch that Tigers Guardians game. It starts at 1:08. It's also on Max, so if you don't have TBS, you have Max, the HBO streaming service. You can watch the playoff game on their streaming service. But yeah, Bill, Joey and I are going to stay, talk for baseball, make some predictions for week 3. If you want to stick around, you can, but if you want to do other stuff with your family, you're welcome to do that too. I appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait until the next edition of our draft simulator.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was very fun. Thank you very much. Just to give a quick shout out to my social. If you want to follow me, feel free on X. I am at Spark Scouting. I am also at Draft Detectives as well. Feel free to give me a follow. I appreciate your time today, guys. Good luck and have fun with those baseball predictions, and I'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you later. That was Bill Sparks of the Draft Detectives. We had a lot of fun drafting today, Joey. But yeah, I've got the Phillies sweeping the Mets. I've got the how do I stop screen sharing? Okay. Let's click this. Let's click stop screen sharing, and we should be able to X out of yep, that's literally all we did. But yeah, I've got the Phillies sweeping. I think the third series is the Tigers. I think the third game today is Royals-Yankees. I've got the Yankees winning that series. Yeah, it's Michael Wacha versus Garrett Cole. Wacha has the better ERA than Cole, but I'm not bold enough to take the Royals to beat the Yankees. But that series, Joey, it's going to come down to Bobby Witt Jr., best batting average in Major League Baseball. I told you last year he was a star, but the Royals really hadn't done much. They gave Bobby Witt Jr. a 7-year extension, and now he leads the MLB in batting average the first year of that big extension. And his role model growing up was Derek Jeter, so he watches a lot of the old Yankee games. And I've got the Yankees beating the Royals. But what's interesting is both the Royals pitchers, Reagans and Wacha, have lower ERAs than the Yankees. So we could get the Royals in the ALCS if they can beat the Yankees. And then the final series, Padres-Dodgers, I'm looking at I like the Dodgers, but Darvish could win game 2. I think the Dodgers win game 1. Darvish wins game 2. I'm going to go with the Padres in 4. For some reason, I feel like the Padres are going to steal this series. I think Yamamoto wins game 1, and then the Padres win 3 consecutive games. So I'm going to take the Padres over the Dodgers. That's going to be my upset, Joey. So I've got the Tigers and the Padres both winning in upsets. You've got the Guardians. I'm just curious, how do you have the ALDS and NLDS? What do you think is going to happen in the other series besides the Guardians game? I think the only teams in the AL that could beat the Yankees are the Tigers and the Guardians. I can't see the Royals beating the Yankees, even though their starting pitchers do have better ERAs. I think the best case scenario for the Royals is they take it to game 5 and they lose in game 5. I think that's the best case scenario for the Royals. But yeah, I've got the Yankees in 4 over the Royals. Maybe it goes to 5 games, but I'm gonna go Yankees in 4. And Phillies and Mets is the one game. Phillies and Mets are both NL East rivals. I think the Phillies, even though the Mets won that wild card against the Brewers, I think the Phillies are just a better overall team, Joey. So I took the Phillies to beat the I've got the Phillies beating the Mets. I think that's the sweep. That's the second game on tonight. And then the Padres play the Dodgers. That's the third game. I'm taking the Padres to knock out the Dodgers, who are the number 1 seed in the National League. So I just don't trust the Dodgers in October, but we'll see what happens. Um, Tanner Beebe with a 4-seam fastball right in the upper corner for strike 1 to Parker Meadows. Parker Meadows leading off this game. But yeah, I'm going to go with the we both have Guardians Yankees. Well, I've got the Yankees over the Tigers. I'm just curious what do you think about the National League DSs? The Phillies, Mets, and the Dodgers, Padres, 2 division rivalries. I know the excitement's not quite what you'd like compared to the American League, but you have to admit the fact that we have 3 division rivals meeting in the divisional series, and then we got Royals, Yankees. I think these are probably the best. I would say these are the best DS matchups since 2002, Joey. 2002, you had the Angels beating the Yankees. You had the Twins beat the Athletics, the Moneyball Athletics, in 5 games. You had the Cardinals defeat the Diamondbacks. The wild card was the Arizona Diamondbacks with Schilling and Randy Johnson, and then you had the Giants beat the Braves, the Bobby Cox led Braves. That was the 2002 playoffs. So I would argue these are the best 4 matchups for a division series since 2002, which is saying a lot. Because I'm not saying other years weren't good, but you really get the nostalgia vibes with this year's DS that you got in previous years. I mean, you get 3 division rivals plus Yankees, Royals at Yankees. I would argue that makes this one of the better years for the ALDS and NLDS. But I also feel like you have far more interest and you're far more invested into the ALDS compared to the NLDS, Joey, because you haven't really said much about the NLDS. And I'm not. I mean, you've got 2 good division rivalries: Mets, Phillies, and Dodgers, Padres. 2 division rivalries, but as an East Coast person myself, I have very little interest in West Coast baseball teams. The Giants, when they won it, was a cool story with Bruce Bochy, Joey Bart, not Joey Bart, Buster Posey. When they won 3 and 5 years with the pitching they had, it was a good story for baseball at the time. But I've never really liked the Dodgers. I don't hate the Dodgers, but I don't like them either. I know the Dodgers are Oren's team, and the Padres are a very good baseball team as well. My brother went to a Padres game at Petco Park. So, I mean, I can't really hate on the Padres. I mean, but at the same time, there's not a high level of interest either. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Padres over the Dodgers and the Phillies over the Mets. And then for my ALCS, I'm gonna go with the Yankees over the Tigers. And for my National League Championship Series, I'm gonna go with the Padres over the Phillies. But that's tough. Like that could honestly go either way, and I think it's gonna go at least 7 games. I think the Padres Phillies is gonna go 7 games. But Phillies would have home field in that scenario. I'm guessing your World Series is going to be either Yankees Phillies or Guardians Phillies, but you really don't care for the National League this year. With the Braves out of it, there's just not a lot of interest because I think we both wanted to see the Braves get to the NLDS, and that now that they're not in it, it's just not as fun for us as fans, you know? So, what would your World Series prediction be if you had to make a prediction right now? All right, yeah, because it's it. Guardians and Dodgers were the only two teams to have World Series memorabilia leaked back in August, and since then, that those leaks have been taken down. So, fact that those leaks were taken down leads me to believe that might be real. So, I'm gonna go with Yankees over Padres. I could see Phillies as well, but Aaron Boone, he was born in San Diego. I think Aaron Boone, he beats the Padres. And yeah, my friend Jordan, he wants the Padres and Tigers to meet in the World Series. If the Padres played the Yankees and lost, I know that would piss off Jordan. But yeah, I'm hoping Joey's prediction of Guardians Dodgers comes true. Tanner Bibby is struggling in the top of the first. He's already at 16 pitches, but there's only one out and there's a runner on first. He's not in any jeopardy right now. Now, if the Tigers get on base, he could face some pressure here, but he's not really in any trouble yet. I mean, it's 0-0. You have a runner on first, there's one out. As long as you get a double play, you're out of this jam you're in. But there's also the possibility that, I get that the Guardians are promoting Apple Arcade, but why do we have to have the Hello Kitty mascot next to the Apple Arcade? The cat is emasculating Progressive Field. The Hello Kitty cat is emasculating Progressive Field. But as long as the Guardians win the World Series, I will not bring it up again. And no double play, but we do get a person out, and there's a runner on second with two outs. And really, as long as you get an out here, doesn't matter if it's a ground out or an outfield out. As long as you get an out here, you're okay, even with the runner on second. So, and I'm guessing Joey has Guardians over Dodgers, correct? Or do you have the Dodgers over the Guardians? I'm just curious. Yeah, and I'm guessing both of those will be 7-game series. Both the Guardians Yankees and Guardians Dodgers. All right. Okay, so that's Joey's prediction. That's my prediction. So we did give our baseball predictions. I've got the Yankees over Padres. Joey's got the Guardians over the Dodgers. So on that note, we're gonna get straight into the NFL predictions. We could look at some contracts, but I'll keep it brief. Could look at some contracts for the Titans. We're not going to do the simulator again, but what we will do is we'll look at some contracts here. I'll keep this brief, and then we'll quickly get into our NFL predictions for week number 5. So yeah. And yeah, Tanner Bibby, 1-2. Pitch clock. Pitch is a ball. It's 2-2. Will Levis will be back next year, but I think the Titans will upgrade over him. Pollard and Spears are back. Titans have both their running backs back. Calvin Ridley. DeAndre Hopkins is a UFA after this year. So Bill's decision to draft a receiver was actually a smart one. I did not think Hopkins, but they voided the last 2-3 years of that deal. So Hopkins is a UFA next year. thanks to the Titans voiding. I don't know why they did that, but I think that makes him more likely to be traded at the deadline now because if he's a UFA after the season, I think the Titans will try to move him at the deadline. Okonkwo and Josh Weil are still under contract. Cushenberry, Latham, Skaronski. Titans are going to need a right guard. Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat are under contract for next year. The rest of the team, they're going to need their defensive linemen. And with the Guardians giving up a walk on ball 4, you're already seeing the pitching coach come to the mound for a visit this early in the top of the first inning. So that's not Stephen Watt. That is the pitching coach already coming to the pitcher's mound in a 0-0 game. Carl Willis, the Guardians pitching coach, already coming to the mound in the top of the first inning. You got Jose Ramirez. He's staring. Staring at the pitcher. He's optimistic. There's a lot of communication between the pitcher and catcher, but this is just. I think this is just a strategy, or here's what we need to do. Just figure out a way to get out of the inning, and we'll go from there. And then the pitching coach goes back to the bullpen or the dugout, and that's basically. But a mound visit in the top of the first is never what you want, especially in a playoff game. But there's less pressure on the Tigers because they barely got in. They weren't expected to do shit. There's a lot more pressure on the Guardians since they're the AL Central champions and they dominated the entire regular season. There's a lot more pressure on them to win. But hopefully they do win. Harold Landry, Kenneth Murray, Arden Key are going to be back. Jack Gibbons is an RFA. The Titans are not losing anything at linebacker. Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams are free agents. So the Titans, they're going to need to reload at safety. They're going to need to reload at wide receiver, quarterback. There's a few positions the Titans have to reload at. I think Bill did a good job addressing most of those. We talked about the Chargers quarterbacks. They got to reload at receiver and corner. They may have to get a running back if Dobbins leaves. But again, I'm not super invested in this. As far as Josh Palmer, DJ Chark, they're both UFAs after this year. You'll still have Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey as your starters. If Burden or McMillan falls, you have to pick them. And that is a pop-up out for the Guardians. The left fielder catches the out. We go to the bottom of the first, scoreless. But yeah, Bibby approaching 30 pitches. Trey Pipkins probably gets bought out. Alt, Slater, Zion Johnson, Jamari Salgier. Bradley Bozeman at center is the only UFA for the Chargers. We did not draft a center with the Chargers, but I think Zion Johnson can play center if you need him to. You need some 34 defensive linemen. I also think the Chargers are going to need an inside linebacker. They have Dayan Henley, but Nick Neiman, Troy Dye, Denzel Perriman, all UFAs. They did draft Junior Colson in the 3rd round. It's probably going to be Colson and Henley next year at inside linebacker. And then you look at the secondary. You have Derwin James. You have Alohi Gilman. But Sante Samuel, contract year. Elijah Molden, Christian Fulton. Your top 3 corners are all UFAs. Jasir Taylor, 2026 UFA. Deion Leonard, 2026 UFA. You have Harb, Tarheem Still, and Cam Ward on rookie deals. So, yeah, that's pretty much where the Chargers are at. So, we will I'll look at the Eagles and Lions. I'll make this as quick as possible, and then we'll get into our predictions. But yeah, after next week will be a lot smoother because next week we have the wide receiver rankings, and then we have the we'll have the draft simulator for the Rams Vikings. Yeah, so we have the you know, Eagles, Mekhi Becton's a UFA. So is Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Devin White. Like Josh Sweat was locked up until 2028, but the Eagles voided every year of his Howie Roseman voiding a lot of contracts to save cap space. Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Devin White. The 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 money in those contracts has been voided. So and I think this is happening so Howie Roseman doesn't have to pay a lot of money. Darius Slay's a 26 UFA. Bradbury. Eagles are going to have to reload in the draft in 2025, but Howie Roseman's great at reloading. Tyler Holton and Joey did get the Stanley Cup right, which is why I'm somewhat confident. And home run, no, hit the wall, but it looked like Holton almost homered. He gets a double though to start things off for the Guardians. But even though he didn't homer and he hit the wall, the crowd is already into things. The crowd is pumped up. The crowd is excited. And if the crowd is excited, that could definitely help the Guardians. And then the Lions. Lions mainly need a second safety and a guard. Unless, yeah, because if you move Brian Branch back to nickel corner, you can reload at safety. Yeah, so the Lions, they have Goff, they have Montgomery's a 2026 UFA. So I did not know that. But Craig Reynolds. Sion Vaki would be the third string running back, but I like Vaki more as a safety. Monroe St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond are all under contract till 2026. Holy crap, the Tigers are already turning the bullpen. It's the bottom of the first inning. Like, what the hell are the Tigers doing? Their pitcher has a good ERA. Why are you turning the bullpen this early? Holton's a starting pitcher though, and he's 7-3. His ERA's better than a Bibby's, and they're just like, they give up the double. They're just going to go to the bullpen. If I'm guessing they're going to keep Holton in if he can get out of this jam, but if the Guardians end up scoring here, they're probably going to turn to the bullpen and rely on the bullpen to bail them out. As long as Holton doesn't give up any runs, I think he'll remain in the game and they won't use the bullpen pitcher. But if he gives up a run here in the first, they're going to go to the bullpen by the second inning. That's probably what it's going to be because this is they're still on the second batter in the lineup and there's no outs. Holton's at 9 pitches, so I don't think they're going to bring in a bullpen guy in the first unless Holton gives up a run. But if he gives up a run, they probably are going to turn to the bullpen sooner rather than later. That's kind of what I'm interpreting. And they walk the second batter. So there's runners on second and first with no outs. And I believe Jose Ramirez is the cleanup batter, bats third or fourth in the lineup. So this is big. If you can get a Jose Ramirez home run here, you are in business. Up 3-0, and the Tigers are probably turning the bullpen. And you got the red rally towels. And Jose Ramirez is up at the plate and ball. Jose Ramirez gets a ball pitched to him. So, yeah, Jose Ramirez is up in the count here. But Raymond Williams, Wide receiver depth is a need for Detroit. Tight end depth is a need for Detroit. Guard, Dan Skipper, your swing tackle, is a UFA. Holton with a ball here. Comiskey. So it's 2-0 for Jose Ramirez. Marcus Davenport suffered a season-ending injury. He's out for the year. So they don't really have a second edge rusher next to Hutchinson. Ali McNeil's a free agent after this year. So is John Comiskey. DJ Reader's a 2026 UFA. Anzalone's locked up till 2026. And there, Jose Ramirez, he swings at a foul ball. The count is 2-2 now. But you've already got Holton up. You might be a few seconds ahead of me here because you said I didn't realize you were a few seconds ahead of me, but you said, "Oh boy," and you began laughing hysterically. That tells me something big's going to happen for the Guardians, but you don't want to spoil it for me. I'm going to go ahead and take an educated guess and say that Jose Ramirez ends up walking. And it's still 0-0, but the bases are loaded. Nope, that is wrong. The Guardians score. Yes! The Cleveland Guardians are on the board. I am very happy about that. A Jose Ramirez RBI is just what the doctor ordered in Cleveland. And yeah, now it's 1-0. There's no outs, and you got runners on third and second. That is big because that was a grounder, but, the third baseman waited too long to make a play. I mean, that was an error, too. It was a good grounder by Ramirez, but an error by 39, the third baseman. I know Torkelson's the first baseman, but 39 with a massive error there. And, Jose Ramirez, he gets the Guardians on the board. It's that simple. Yeah. But yeah, Josh Naylor's up at the plate. Cleveland's batters are handling business early. Um, the Lions, they do need another corner. They could use a corner. Detroit could use a corner. And Cleveland with another base hit. And there we have one. Do we have two more runs? Or no, we have runners on third and first with no outs. So it's 2-0 Cleveland. Fry scores. How are you watching the game? Are you watching it on radio or you have it on Max? Because Max is streaming service. So do you have an MLB account on Major League Baseball? Yeah. Because if you have an account on MLB.com, you can and it looks like the Tigers are going to the bullpen. Somebody from Philadelphia is calling my cell phone. I don't know the number. It's not in my area code, so I'm just going to decline the call. If you're not in my contact list, yeah, if you're not in the top, if somebody's not in your contact list, the best piece of advice I could give you is to decline the call. Because you don't want to have a scammer or stranger calling your cell phone number without your consent. But yeah, Enos Rakestraw, he did get injured in the. He came in for one of the injured corners in the Lions game. I think he did get injured in that game too, the Monday night game. I don't know, but the Lions. We're going through the Lions contracts. We're watching Guardians, Tigers. Tigers already go to the bullpen. Yeah, I'm not even going to look at the tweets. I know I have some friends who are Tigers fans. I'm not even going to look at the tweets. If my team's scoring, we have all the momentum. You just savor it. Just savor it while you have it. But yeah, the Tigers, I mean, Lions do need to reload in the secondary, get them another receiver, get some more guards. That's mainly what they need to do for the draft. I think we covered the bases pretty well. And next week we'll have the simulator for the Rams, Dolphins, Chiefs, and Vikings. All right, time to load up the NFL predictions for week number 5 here. It's the final segment of the show, and then we'll sign off. But yeah, looking at this, we have Joe Burrow on the cover for this week. It was a tie between Burrow and Jaden Daniels. I went with Burrow though because the Ravens and Bengals are my next 2 Super Bowl winners, and I do have the Bengals winning. But we're gonna start in London before we get to my game of the week. We're gonna start in London with the Jets Vikings. I'm taking the Jets to beat the Vikings, and Reese Olson is coming in. Reese Olson's ERA is not good. I actually think the Tigers did worse. I know you're chuckling. You're chuckling like you're chuckling like one of the characters of Beavis and Butthead. That's what you're chuckling about. The Lane Thomas home run. That's what you were chuckling about. 5-0. 5-0. I am loving this. Tigers use their 2 best pitchers for the AL wild card. So technically, the Tigers are pitching their number 3 pitcher against the Guardians, and then they're going to the bullpen. Because the first 2 games, the wild card, they use their number 1, number 2 starters, and their bullpens were semi regularly. They used a few middle relievers, their setup pitcher, their closer, and they were able to win by doing that. But now you're burning your long relievers. Your middle relievers are going to start to fatigue because you're going to have to burn through one of your 2 long relievers. And since you've probably gone through 2 of your 4 middle relievers, if you pitch one of those middle relievers again, they're going to fatigue. If you don't, none of your middle relievers are going to be at 100% going into game 2. They'll be at like 75, 80, 90% if they pitch well, but none of them are going to be 100%, and that's going to put that's what puts the Guardians at the advantage right now. And Cleveland, Detroit. Oh, Detroit! How did they screw that up? Torkelson dropped the easy out. God, he was the number 1 pick. I'm not trying to roast Detroit here, but Spencer Torkelson was the number 1 pick in the MLB draft. You can't drop that. You're down 5-0. You can't drop that, Torkelson. He was the number 1 pick in the draft coming out of Arizona State. I mean, yeah. AJ Hinch is going to send Olson to the Dan Campbell boot camp of masculinity this offseason. I don't even know if Dan Campbell's a great football coach, but I'm not sure if he could toughen up these bullpen pitchers on the Tigers. I'm just savoring this because I thought that was for sure going to be an out, but the pitcher fumbles the baseball, the infielder finally grabs it, and then Torkelson drops what should be an easy out. I just, but the Jets Vikings game in London, I took the Jets. Joey took the Vikings. Morgan Moses is still injured. Okay, the Tigers, they finally get their first out here? They do, but a runner is on second with 1 out. So if we get another hit here, we could make the 6-0. I'll gladly take a 5-0 lead into the second, but that extra run, it doesn't hurt. And I can guarantee you they're going to pull Olsen after this inning. So they're probably going to have to burn through their second long reliever and then try to get to the fifth or sixth inning with him. That's probably going to be the play because I don't see Olsen pitching I don't see Olsen pitching 4 innings. Good job there to get that second out, but now you've got a runner on third. And if Cleveland can get a hit here at 6-0, that's really all you got to do is get a hit. But, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Mike Williams, Gibson, Alan Lazard, Corley. Jets have a ton of depth. Brees Hall, Braylon Allen. Vikings are due to lose a game. Will McDonald, Kinlaw, Reddick, Michael Clemens. You have a really good defense. Quinn Williams. I mean, the Jets have a really good defense. Sauce Gardner versus Justin Jefferson. I think Sauce is going to lock down Jefferson. Me and Joey were the only Draft Utopia members to take the Jets. The rest of the company took the Vikings because of their momentum and because of their start. Darnold's luck's got to run out one of these days. I mean, we both took the Jets to beat the Vikings. The game's in London. It's not in Minnesota. You want to break down why you picked the Jets to win? Maybe you'll break it down during the inning stretch because I kind of want to see how this plays out. Only way to watch games. And the Vikings have to lose at some point. They keep getting all these lucky wins, and they're doing a good job winning games. I'll give Kevin O'Connell all the credit in the world for the 4-0 start, but the Vikings have to lose at some point. It's probably going to be this week. And it looks like the Guardians are going to have another runner on first base. Oh, the count's 3-2. Never mind. But yeah, Ravens, Bengals. Kerm is now in the lead. Kerm has regained the lead. Bantle and Kerm were tied at 40-24 entering the week. Wes is at 39 games on the year. Matt Bowen's at 41. Gary Bantle, who led last week's at 39-25 on the year. Tracy's at 37-27. I'm 36-26 on the year. Man, if Four hadn't swung at that pitch, he's on base. But, I'm not going to be upset at Rocchio. We're up by 5 runs. You get another run here, it's a 6-run game. But you shouldn't be satisfied with 5-0 in the playoffs. You really should. And that's a ground out. It's pop up fly, yeah. But the Tigers get out of the inning. But you'll take that 5 runs. You'll take that all day. Ravens and Bengals. And here's the thing: the Guardians, if they can get to the 5th, 6th inning with the lead, the game's over because they have the best bullpen in the league. That's all they. Yeah, I'm going to go through the Tigers Astros series to see what bullpen pitchers the Tigers have used. All right, so when the Tigers won 3-1 on Tuesday, they've had Skubal for 6 innings. Vest pitched 1 2/3 innings. Will Vest, middle reliever, 1 2/3 innings. Holton, Tyler Holton. Tyler Holton pitched 1 inning out of the bullpen. He pitched a third of an inning out of the bullpen. And then Foley, Jason Foley. So Holton pitched 1/3 of an inning. He came in for Vest and he pitched 1/3 of an inning. The starting pitcher, he came in and he pitched 1/3 of an inning. Jason Foley, was that the guy who came in for the Tigers in this game? But Jason Foley had an ERA of 27 in 1 inning, so that's middle reliever. And then Brisket, the closer, came in and had a save. No, I'm talking about the entire playoffs. I'm looking at the entire Tigers. Yeah, did Foley pitch today, Joey? Okay, so Foley, um, let me look here. The Tigers, Ol yeah, Holton started and Olson came out of the bullpen. So, yeah, looking at this, so yeah, the Tigers, they went through 2 middle relievers and a closer in game 1. They pitched, Holton Holton did pitch in game 2, Joey, but he only pitched an inning in game 2. And then Hannafy came in. Brendan Hannafy came in out of the bullpen, pitched 1 2/3 innings as a long reliever. Herter pitched 1 2/3 innings as a long reliever. Bo Brisket pitched 1 2/3 innings as a middle reliever. Jackson Jobe gave up 2 runs as a middle reliever. Gunther, the setup pitcher, pitched, and Vest. So, Detroit, they've already used both setup pitchers, and so both setup pitchers, they use their closer, their setup pitcher, they've used all their middle relievers. I think they've only used one of their 2 long relievers, but that's it, Joey. So technically the Tigers did use both long relievers against the Astros. So the Tigers have burned through every pitcher in their bullpen, basically, so far. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, his birth name was Carlos Estevez. Yeah, I'm seeing if there's anything as far as his baseball career goes on the internet. Probably not, but I'm just kind of curious. He was a star pitcher, and he was at he went to Santa Monica High School with Robert Downey Jr., where he was the star pitcher and shortstop on the baseball team. So yeah, yeah, but he got expelled from school for poor grades and attendance issues, and then he followed in Martin Sheen's footsteps. Yeah. Yes, so the Ravens and the Bengals. I mean, the Ravens are the healthiest team in the AFC right now. They're getting Arthur Millette, last year's nickel cornerback. No injuries on defense. They're getting Voorhees back this week. He missed a week. Only injuries the Ravens have are the running backs, Rasheen Ali and Keaton Mitchell. Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, the number two running backs, are both fully healthy. So the Ravens are the healthiest team in the AFC right now. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl. I'm taking the Bengals though. I know the Bengals defense hasn't played up to par yet, but they have, outside of Trent Brown, they have zero injuries on offense. Miles Murphy's coming back. I think Miles Murphy's going to have somewhat of an impact as a 2023 first round pick. They got Zach Carter and Chris Jenkins as starters, but BJ Hill is going to be back. So BJ Hill is going to be back for the Bengals this week. But yeah, BJ Hill is going to be back. I Yeah. I think the Browns and Bengals beat the Ravens, but I have the Ravens beating both the Commanders at home and the Buccaneers on the road in Sunday Night Football. I mean, next few weeks will be interesting for the Ravens because those next four games at Cincinnati versus Washington, at Tampa on Sunday night, and versus at Cleveland week 8. Those games are going to reveal a lot about this Ravens team. This is not an easy schedule. Their schedule does get easier in the back half, but this is a tough stretch of games too. It's not as tough as the first 4 weeks of the season, but it is a tough stretch of games entering the second quarter of the season. I'm not really worried about the Ravens. I think the Ravens for you are like the Boston Celtics in the NBA. Until they win the championship with this regime, with this quarterback, with this supporting cast, you're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt because too many times they've let fans down. They had home field twice and they let their fan base down on both occasions. So for you, until they prove it, Rashad Bateman looks a lot better this season compared to his first 3 years in the league, but there's not enough growth to warrant an extension after his rookie deal. And he got a fifth-year tender too, Joey. So if the Ravens do win the Super Bowl, they pretty much have everybody coming back next year. But they'll get hyped up to repeat, and then we know they won't repeat. We both know that. If they win it this year, they won't repeat, but they'll get hyped up because they'll have everybody coming back. But we will He str he struggled. He showed promise his rookie year, but he missed time with injuries as a sophomore, and he underachieved last year. This year, he looks a lot better. He looks the best he's looked since his rookie year, but that's not saying a lot. But I'm not giving up on him either. I And they've got a lot of depth at tight end. They've got, Nelson Aguilar as their wide receiver 3, but they also got Devontae Walker. They've got a variety of guys they can incorporate into the offense, but the defense is fully healthy. Offensive line's played much better the last 2 weeks. Ravens are an interesting team. If they keep this up, they could definitely be a Super Bowl contender, but at the same time, keep 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 stacking wins. And if they lose some games, I think they will lose to an AFC North team, but they could also lose to Baker. It just depends. I'm going to take the Bengals here because the Bengals are getting a lot of guys back. They're getting Miles Murphy, their 2023 first round pick, is back. The last time the Cleveland had 5 runs in the first inning of the ALDS, they beat the Yankees in game 1, and they won the AL pennant that year. So, yeah. Manny, Omar Vizquel, Kenny Lofton, David Justice. No, the Montreal Expos had the best record in baseball that year. The Expos had the best record. I'm gonna look at the awards for that year. Raul Mondesi and Greg Maddux had the Cy Young. Felipe Alou was manager of the year. I'm just curious as to what the standings. No, the Yankees were 70 and 43, but Cleveland was 67 and 46. They were the White Sox were 67 and 46. The Cleveland Indians were 66 and 47. So it would have been Yankees versus Indians and then White Sox versus Rangers. That would have been the wild card. Those would have been the matchups for 1994. And then it would have been the Expos would have faced the Braves, and then the Reds would have faced the Dodgers. So, yeah. And Cleveland gets another base hit, runners on first and second. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. I mean, if Cleveland keeps hitting like this, they're going to be the team to beat. But yeah, I am taking the Bengals in a defensive game. I'm going 27-21. Actually, this is an offensive game. I'm going to go 27-21. Banel and I are the only ones taking the Bengals. Everyone else at the staff has the Ravens winning. So, yeah. And speaking of Cleveland, the Browns play the Commanders. Um, you know, I've got the Commanders winning this game, but when I did the show with William Yanish and Brandon on Wednesday, who are filling in for Oren, they both took the Browns. to beat the Commanders. I don't see it happening. The Browns have a lot of injuries right now. I do think this game will be competitive. I do think it'll be a defensive contest, but I like the Commanders 24-20 over the Browns. Jaden Daniels with a late touchdown, fourth quarter comeback to beat the Browns in front of his home crowd. That's what I'm going to predict. And the over under 42. I took the over barely. I barely took the over because the over under is 42. That's kind of what I do. If the over under is 50-50, I'll barely take the over or barely take the under. Usually, if more people are betting on the under, which they are in this case 52% to 48, I'll take the over. But I'm being very fiscal, very conservative about it. Their secondary is awful, basically. Their defensive line isn't bad, but Clellan Ferrell's out, and their secondary is not great. So that's why it could be high scoring. Yep. And I think was that Jose Ramirez? That was not Jose. That was Naylor who struck out. But yeah, everybody's got the Commanders winning, including Kerm. Panthers play the Bears in Chicago. The Bears are the healthiest team in the NFL right now. They're the only team with zero injuries on both sides of the ball. I know that's an amazing stat. It's hard to believe there's a team with zero injuries on both sides of the ball, starter and start with both starters at full health. So the only team with their 22 best starters at full health right now is the Chicago Bears. Now, next week, the Commanders do get Jamison Crowder back. So they will be fully healthy on offense next week when they play the Ravens. So the Commanders are the second healthiest team in the NFL, in the NFC behind the Bears. That actually is kind of interesting. It makes this NFC very fascinating. And it's interesting because Tony Mario brought up the strength of schedules with the Commanders, with the Bears. There does feel like there's a window of opportunity for both teams. You think it's more likely that the Commanders capitalize on that window? I think both teams are going to overachieve early due to weaker strength of schedules and struggle late down the stretch, but we'll see. Um, Bears are, yeah. Well, the Rams are getting a bye week next week, which kind of helps because if they win this week, they could have some of their guys back for week 7, whether it be Cooper Cup or Puka Nakua. They could have some guys back for week 7. So if those guys stay healthy, they might be okay. But the Rams are an outlier as far as the bye weeks go. Chiefs are another outlier because the Chiefs aren't going to have Rashee Rice until week 10 at the earliest now. They placed him on IR, so 5, So weeks 5, 7, 8, 9. They're not going to have him. The Bears, I like the Bears to win this one. Bantle has the Panthers pulling the upset, but the rest of our staff has the Bears winning convincingly. Bills, Texans. We interviewed Rocky Lombardi. I asked him your question. You can also check out Utopia Football Insiders. Bills and Utopia Football Insiders. Insiders, it really doesn't matter. They're both cool words. But yeah, the Bills and the Texans. Von Miller suspended for 4 games. Taylor Rapp is still in concussion protocol. Khalil Shakir is out. Titus Howard may be out this week. So Blake Fisher, who filled in for an injured Laramie Tunsil against the Jaguars last week, if you saw that game, Joey, he would make his first start at right tackle this week against the Bills. Tank Dell is going to be back from an injury. Mixon and Pierce are going to be back too. Mixon and Pierce are going to be out again. Cam Akers, who started the last 2 games, will be start his 3rd week in a row. Texans do not have a lot of depth at defensive end. They have Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., but their backup right end is Jerry Hughes, and their backup left end Dylan Horton is injured, and the other backup left end is Derek Barnett. So Dylan Horton, Derek Barnett, and Jerry Hughes are all injured at defensive end for the Texans. So Texans have 0 depth at defensive end, but their starting edge rushers are healthy. But they literally have to play every down, even if they're fatigued. So that's the big thing I'm looking at with the Texans. I don't think that'll matter against the Bills. But you have Christian Harris, you have Aziz Al-Shahir, Stingley, Lassiter, Jalen Petier are your top 3 corners. You have Jimmy Ward back. You have Kalen Bullock. Texans are favored by 1. I like the Texans 35-28 in a high-scoring game. Jason and Tracy agree with me. The rest of the staff has the Bills winning. What do you feel like could happen? To be fair to Buffalo, I do have the Bills beating the Texans in the playoffs. I have the Texans winning this game, but I have the Bills and Texans meeting in the divisional round where Josh Allen gets revenge on Stroud. That's kind of what I have happening. So to be fair to the Bills, yeah, yeah. Colts head to Jacksonville. There's a lot of urgency for the Jaguars to deliver this week. Anthony Richardson, I think Flacco is going to start. The Colts insider at The Athletic said that he believes, even though Anthony Richardson was a limited practice, he believes the muscle in the oblique is damaged to the point where Richardson cannot play despite being a limited practice. and he will need another week to recover. So, Colts insider at the Athletic does have Flacco starting, and Jonathan Taylor, who's won the 2 games for the Colts, is out. Colts offensive line's fully healthy. The receivers are fully healthy. Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Donnie Mitchell, Ashton Doolin had the 54-yard touchdown. So, Ryan Kelly is out. Everybody else is healthy. But Tanner Bortolini did a good job in his first start at center with the neck injury for Ryan Kelly lingering. And the Colts didn't bother to extend Ryan Kelly in the offseason. That tells me they drafted Bortolini to replace Kelly. Because the fact that Kelly wanted to get an extension done this summer and the Colts didn't budge, it's almost like the Colts are at the point where they like Ryan Kelly, but because he's been injured so frequently and because they got 8 years out of him, they're ready to move on. Because I think Ryan Kelly's like 31 or 32 years old, Joey. So I think the Colts are at the point where, you know what? They feel like they've gotten all of the prime years they can get out of Kelly. They're going to let him walk and move on to Bortolini, especially if Bortolini plays as good as he did. Because Bortolini was winning a lot of one-on-ones against Keanu Benton in his first start at center. I want to see if that's going to continue against Jacksonville. Because, you know, when the Eagles won Super Bowl, okay, when the Eagles won Super Bowl 52, Press Taylor was the assistant quarterback's coach. And the year after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they promoted him to quarterback's coach. Because remember, when the Eagles won Super Bowl 52, John DeFilippo was their quarterback's coach. He went to the Vikings to be their offensive coordinator, and Press Taylor got promoted to quarterback's coach as a result. And then Press Taylor did the quarterback play wasn't as good without John DeFilippo, but after 2 years where the Eagles made the playoffs with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, they promoted Press Taylor again from quarterback's coach to passing game coordinator. And yeah, that did not go well. Promoting Press Taylor twice led to Doug Peterson getting fired. And then he went to the Colts as senior offensive assistant, and then Doug Peterson hires him as the new offensive coordinator starting in 2022. And to be fair, he wasn't bad his first year. His first year under Peterson, he got the Jaguars to the playoffs. But that was mainly because Peterson was calling the plays on offense the first year. Then Press Taylor's been calling the plays the last 2 years. So The Colts, they do have a bunch of injuries on offense. They don't have Samson Ekubom or Taekwon Lewis for the rest of the year. Kwity Paye is going to be out. DeForest Buckner's on IR for 2 more weeks. Um, and they have a ton of injuries at corner with Brents and with Kenny Moore and Dallas Flowers coming off a season-ending injury last year. Nick Cross leads the NFL in tackles. Nick Cross has 43 tackles through 4 weeks. That's the most in the NFL. The Colts free safety, Nick Cross, for all the issues the Colts had at free safety in training camp, Nick Cross won that free safety job next to Julian Blackman. The Jaguars, they paid Lawrence. You've got Cam Robinson. You've got Walker Little. You've got Anton Harrison. Interior offensive line is Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Scherf. You have Gabriel Davis, Brian Thomas, and Kirk as your weapons. Evan Ingram is going to miss his 4th game in a row. So ETN got less touches, less carries. The Jaguars aren't going to have Oysade Olakun. They put him on IR. He will be back in week 8 at the earliest. Devin Lloyd is a game-time decision. But Tyson Campbell got placed on IR prior to week 2. I'm wondering if Tyson Campbell is going to play against the Bears in London, or if they're going to wait till week 8 to bring him back. Because I feel like if the Jaguars want to turn this season around, Joey, they need to play Tyson Campbell in London. They could try to win both games in London. They might beat the Patriots in London without Tyson Campbell, but the Bears are fully healthy. They're not beating the Bears if Tyson Campbell doesn't make that trip to London. And I would think if as long as he's off IR, he's making that trip to London. Even if he doesn't play, I would think as long as he's off IR, he's making the trip to London. He's going to be on the team playing to London. And given the urgency to win, I feel like you have a responsibility to play him even if he's not 100%. You don't want him to get re-injured, but it's just urgency's so big. You're 0-4. If you beat the Colts and you get Tyson Campbell back, you could go on a run and start winning games. There's a reason I have the Jaguars at 8-9 on the year. I've got the Jags winning 24-12. You and me are the only ones who have the Jags winning. The rest of our staff has the Colts winning. Bantle was going to take the Jaguars, but he read a report that the Jaguars locker room is no longer responding to Peterson. I found out on Twitter that rumor was BS, but Peterson could just be virtue signaling and saying that. We really don't know what's going on in that locker room internally. So I would say the players aren't responding to Taylor, but because Peterson's not doing anything about that, that essentially makes Peterson an accomplice. Where Press Taylor is killing this offense with his shitty play calling. He is murdering this offense's ability to score points, and Doug Peterson's just standing by and allowing him to do that, which makes Peterson an accomplice in a sense. I agree. Dolphins head to New England. Dolphins, they're not going to have their number. Dolphins Dolphins are not going to have Jalen Phillips for the rest of the year. Um, I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do. They've been playing Ogba with Phillips because Chubb's not back yet. They're probably going to play Chop Robinson. He's probably going to start this week. I took the Patriots. and an upset. Dolphins have a ton of injuries right now. They are not the same team without Tua. I think it's going to be an ugly defensive game, 20-17. You and Wes were the only two to take Miami. And what do you know, Joey? We have a game where the majority of Draft Utopia has the Patriots winning. I did not think this scenario would exist. I did not think this scenario would compute. But we have a scenario where over half of our staff has the Patriots winning. 5 people picked the Patriots over Miami. So you and Wes took the Dolphins. This is a very mundane game. If you don't want to go into great detail about why you picked the Dolphins to win, you don't have to. I think we can agree this is a very boring game. It's a big division rivalry game, but it's also kind of a boring game with Huntley versus Brissett. Yeah, and both quarterbacks are former Browns, both Huntley and Brissett. So, and the Tigers with an error runner is safe. Raiders Broncos. I took the Raiders in an upset. I'm hearing Max Crosby will be back this week. Mayer is out. Adams is out. I think I'm the only one that has the Raiders winning. And I'm not confident in it. I have the Raiders winning 21-19. Warren and I are the only ones who have the Raiders winning. But here's the thing, Joey. Whoever wins this game is going to be in a great position. And they're going to have a window of opportunity to do something. Because you look at the Raiders, they host the Steelers in week 6. If you can win this game, you could be 4-2 if you beat the Steelers at home. If the Broncos win this game, they're 3-2. They host the Chargers coming off a bye week. And if Slater and Alt and Joey Bosa are out again, you could steal that game and be 4-2. And I think Sean Payton's going to beat New Orleans in week 7 on Thursday night. That is a revenge game for Sean Payton. So I think Payton beats the Saints. And I think Denver's going to be 4-3 after week 7. They could be 5-2 if they win this game. But I have the Raiders winning this one 21-19. So, but that's the thing. If that's the thing about this game. If the Broncos can find a way to win this, they could be 5-2 after week 7. I don't think they will make the playoffs, but they can make things interesting early in the season to where people are up in arms about the Broncos. People are debating whether they'll do something. And if they're 5-2 and they end the year 6-11, I know that will disappoint a lot of fans. But I think I'm looking at Denver right now. If they win that game, because I have the Broncos actually starting 5-3. I have them losing this week, but winning 3 in a row. And if you beat the Raiders, you beat the Chargers, you beat the Saints, you beat the Panthers at home, you're 6-2 entering week 9. And you just have to win half of those games in the second half, and you're a playoff team, essentially. It's not going to be easy with the Ravens and the Chiefs. You host Atlanta in week 11. You travel to Las Vegas. You host the Browns in Monday Night Football. You're going to have to beat the Raiders in week 12 in Vegas. You're going to have to beat the Falcons at home. You're going to have to beat the Browns. You're going to have to win those games and either steal one against Cincinnati or the Chargers to make the playoffs. I think that's the key for Denver to make the playoffs. I think there's too much working against them. Really tough strength of schedule. So for me, I would say the Broncos would finish the year at 6-11 right now if I had to take an educated guess. But if they beat the Raiders, that 6-11 record goes up to 7-10. But there are some other games on their schedule they could steal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Denver. 49ers and Cardinals, this was a lock on the site. Everybody took San Francisco 35-13. Not going to waste any more time with that one. Packers are not going to have Christian Watson. Romeo Dobbs or Luke Musgrave this week. Um, Kenny Clark is a game time decision. Jair Alexander is a game time decision. Elgin Jenkins, the left guard, is a game time decision. I think the Packers are just as depleted with injuries as the Rams. So I'm taking the Rams in the upset 24-21. Wes and I have the Rams. The rest of the staff has the Packers winning this game. But this is a big game. I think the Packers lose this game to the Rams. But, I could see the Packers getting their revenge in the playoffs if they meet the Rams again. If they don't, then we'll see what happens, though. This is a game the Packers could win. I still have the Rams as my NFC West winner. I don't know why I called the NFC West the National League West. I think it's because all this baseball's on. But yeah, I've got the Rams. I've got the Rams winning by a field goal. And while the Detroit Tigers get Jair Alexander's out at corner, and I think that's going to be why the Rams win. Not having Jair Alexander is going to allow the Rams to pick apart the secondary. That's what we saw last week when the Vikings beat the Packers. Without Jair Alexander, they just didn't have an answer for Justin Jefferson. But this feels like a game where the turnover battle is going to matter and the running game is going to matter. Because Josh Jacobs is healthy, so is Kyron Williams. The running game and the turnover battle are going to be the keys to this one, I think. I think the Rams are going to win the turnover battle. But I do think the Packers, they get the Cardinals in week 6, so they'll win a game. If they lose this game to the Rams, they'll beat the Cardinals and be 3-3. I think both teams are still in position to make the playoffs regardless of who wins. But I think there's more urgency for the Rams to get that second win. The Giants play Seattle. There were rumors that Daniel Jones would get benched for Drew Lock. That turned out to be BS. We have to live with Daniel Jones for another week. Oh, and the Giants are going to be playing on Sunday Night Football. That game didn't get flexed out, so you get to see Daniel Jones on Sunday Night Football. You get to see Collinsworth calling Daniel Jones, "Here's the guy." And yeah, that's a Sunday night game. I know I'm guessing they'll bench him after the Bengals game if I had to take a guess. Because you play bad versus Seattle, then you play really bad in prime time. I think it was Mark Sanchez's butt fumble game was a Thursday night or Sunday night game. I think it was a Thanksgiving game, but that game was so bad it led to the end of his career. Um so I like the Giants to win this. I mean, I like the Seahawks. I'm not taking the Giants. I don't know why I said that. Maybe I'm just really tired. I pulled a bunch all-nighters from coding. So, yeah. But I've got like 9 of the week 16 games up. Week 6 games, not week 16. See? But yeah, the Uchenna Nwosu is expected to come back this week. So the Seahawks are going to have everybody back at full health. They're only favored by 3.5 against the Giants. I think that's a little too low for them at home. I'm going to go with Seattle 20-15 in a defensive game. Seahawks are the other lock on the site this week. Cowboys and Steelers. I went with Pittsburgh. I know the AFC North fan and Joey wants the Cowboys to win this so that the Ravens and the Browns are closer to Pittsburgh. I don't think it's going to happen. Dallas, they're going to have to beat Pittsburgh in a shootout with no Micah Parsons, with no DeMarcus Lawrence. And I know the Steelers' offensive line is banged up. Fautanu's out for the year. They moved Dan Moore Jr. back to left tackle. They moved Broderick Jones back to right tackle. Oh, and Mason and with Isaac Sumalo injured, Spencer Anderson's the left guard, and Mason McCormick made his first NFL start at right guard last week. I think the Steelers' offensive line holds steady, and I think Pittsburgh wins this one. I think Pittsburgh. I noticed that in some games, not I look at the depth charts for both teams and usually pick the team with the healthier depth chart, especially if they're playing at home. But I noticed there's a few games where sometimes Joey takes the team with the quarterback he likes more. That was the theme with Tampa Bay Atlanta. That's the theme with this game. And Dak is going to break out, but I don't know when he's going to break out because these next 4 games are going to be tough. I've got the Cowboys starting 2-6 and making the playoffs at 9-8. I have them losing to Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco, and Atlanta, and making the playoffs at 9-8 over Tampa as the last wild card. Dallas just has too much talent to not get back to the playoffs, and they're probably going to steal a game within that stretch. I just don't know when they're going to steal a game. And look, Wes and Oren and myself, that's the thing. They got to if they're gonna if they, they're gonna have their back against the wall if they start 2-6, and they might steal a game at some point. But yeah, Joey, Kerm, Tracy, and Jason took the Cowboys. Oren and West took the Steelers. Saints, Chiefs. I know the Chiefs have a laundry list of injuries, but the Saints' entire interior offensive line is injured. Landon Young, Lucas Patrick, the Bears center from last year, injured. Eric McCoy on injured reserve. Cesar Ruiz, he's out for the second week in a row at right guard. Chris Jones is going to feast. He's going to feast. He might get 5 sacks in this game. That's how dire the Saints' interior offensive line is. But because Alvin Kamara is consistently getting 100 total yards, the Saints are consistently getting 300 total yards of offense each week, whether it's passing or running the ball. So that's probably what factored into Joey taking the Saints, that and the Chiefs' injuries. I do think the Chiefs are due for a loss as well, but I think it's going to be after the San Francisco game. I think they win this game, the San Francisco game, and then we can start speculating when the Chiefs are going to lose their first game. I think they are going to slip up because their offense hasn't played well enough for them to three-peat, Joey. My prediction for the Chiefs was they get the 1 seed, but they lose in the divisional round. That looks like a very realistic prediction right now with how sloppy the Chiefs' offense is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Rasheed Rice is injured. Um, Marquez Brown is injured. I do think 2 teams will beat the Chiefs. I have the Bills and the Browns beating the Chiefs, but the Chiefs, they play the Steelers on Christmas. They play in Pittsburgh. They play there's a lot of opponents they play. They could slip up during one of the bye weeks, but they could slip up after the bye week. I don't think they're going to slip up right now, though. But yeah, I've got the Chiefs beating the Saints. I just think with the Saints injuries on the interior. Oh, and Willie Gay Jr. was the energy guy on the Chiefs last year at linebacker. He's on the Saints, but he got injured in week 1. He's missed the last 4 weeks. And he's already been ruled out in week 5. So for me, that's enough of a reason to say, all right, Chiefs got this. I think the Chiefs have to win a game by double digits. 24-14, Chiefs win their first game by double digits. I'm going to take I think Xavier Worthy. And that's the thing with the Chiefs. They always score in ways you least expect them to score in. That's the big thing with the Chiefs that stands out. But yeah, everyone except Joey has the Chiefs winning and being 5-0. But I think the Chiefs are going to be the only 5-0 team next week. I will be picking for them in the group mock. We have the Vikings, we have the Rams, and we have the Dolphins. So you can pick between the Vikings and the Dolphins. We'll give Bill the other team. We just have to figure out if we can get anybody. We don't have to get Jake. We can reach out to Blaine if Jake's not interested. I have 2 Rams followers on Twitter. We can reach out to, and Joe Branham of Rams Showcase. I'd reach out to him, but I just feel like Joe Branham wouldn't be interested, but we'll see. We have a lot of Rams fans that follow our content, so we can reach out to one. And look, if William Yanish joins the podcast, he could pick for the Rams too. So we got a lot of options as to how we can approach next week. But yeah, we pretty much covered all of our topics for today, and I wanted to get out of here by 3. So here's what we'll do. It's the bottom of the 4th inning, 2 outs. Jose Ramirez is up at bat. We will recap. We will watch the end of this inning, and then we will sign off here on TalkShoe and Restream. So you're 2 pitches ahead of me. I'm guessing the count's 2-2. Yep. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Count at 2-2. And Jose Ramirez hits it, pop up out. But yeah, it's 5-0. 66 pitches through 4 innings for Olsen. And yeah, you can get the ALDS. You can get it through MLB.com. You can get it through the MLB TV app. You can get it through Max and TBS. There's multiple ways to watch the MLB, but I have all the apps: NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, MLB. I think the MLS Cup's going to be Galaxy and the Inter Miami CF, and the storyline is going to be David Beckham's former team, the Galaxy, the team he played for, versus Inter Miami CF, the team he owns, with Lionel Messi. And I think the team he owns beats the team he played for to win it all. That would be my prediction for the MLS, because the Galaxy have 4 10-goal scorers. They're the first team in MLS history to have 4 soccer players score 10 goals. They're the only team to ever do that, this year's Galaxy team. So, and right now, Miami's the number 1 seed, but Columbus has just jumped FC Cincinnati for the 2 seed. And that's big, because if Columbus and Cincinnati meet in the playoffs this time around, it won't be Cincinnati who has home field. It'll be Columbus. So that is big. Orlando has moved all the way up to number 4 Duncan McGuire with a really incredible second half. That shouldn't come as a surprise. Orlando got off to a slow start. They've kicked ass in the second half. They were the 2 seed last year. They're the 4 seed this year. I mean, just the Eastern Conference in general with the top 4 seeds, it looks incredible. New York City FC, the New York Red Bulls, and Charlotte FC have clinched playoff spots. So, yes, Dave Tepper will be in the playoffs. Charlotte FC, they did make the playoffs as a 9 seed last year, but they lost in the play-in game. Right now, they're the 7 seed. But Dave Tepper, he will be going to Columbus to take on Jimmy Haslam. And yeah, you've never. I know you're not really big on soccer, but you're rooting for Haslam to beat Dave Tepper because Dave Tepper, the way he treats people, it's not good. But yeah, you've got Montreal, a team I thought would be the worst MLS team. They're the number 8 seed in the East. And Toronto and Philadelphia are competing. We have a 3-way tie for that last playoff spot. Toronto's at 37 points, 33 games played. Philadelphia's at 37 points, 32 games played. Washington's at 32 games played, 37 points. But here's the thing. Toronto has 11 wins. Philadelphia and DC United only have 9 wins. So those teams have to win if they want to jump Toronto. And I would say the Union probably get in. I want to see a Union Toronto's first round matchup. I think DC United, Montreal are both mediocre teams. I think Toronto and Philadelphia would be the best matchup for the 8-9 matchup. Galaxy are the 1 seed. LAFC are the 2 seed. Sounders are the 3 seed. 61 points for the Galaxy, 55 for LAFC, 53 for the Sounders. Real Salt Lake with 53. Houston with 53. The Colorado Rapids with 50. The Vancouver Whitecaps with 47. And the Minnesota United FC with Dane St. Clair, the goalie, who has dominated this year. They have clinched a playoff spot. So it is down to Portland and Austin FC for the last wild card in the West. Everybody else has been eliminated. Earthquakes are out of it. Sporting Kansas City is out of it. St. Louis SC is out of it. They fired their coach. They have an interim coach now. And FC Dallas is out of it. So, yeah. And FC Dallas, they drafted Logan Farrington 3rd overall. Colorado had 3 picks in the top 5 of the MLS draft. They're still in it. But yeah, that will do it. Tanner Bibby is still pitching. But yeah, you can watch the game on TBS, the MLB app, MLB TV, or I'm guessing Joey's using the MLB app. Because I know some people, if they pay for an MLB account, they get all the games for free on the MLB app. Like if you pay for the games on MLB, you get some of the games through the app. But you can also get the scores. That's kind of what I figured because I know if you have MLB TV, you get the games on Amazon Prime. Because I've seen that. The MLB TV game of the day, you get that for free if you have an MLB TV account in Amazon Prime. But I also think they don't give you accounts unless you sign up for MLB TV. But either way, there's options. So there's multiple avenues you can go with. Yes, so you can get MLB TV. I know MLB TV is cool, so like, but you also get the games for free if you have different cable networks and stuff. Bibby's still pitching here. They have the bullpen warming up. Smith is I'm guessing Smith's gonna come in the 6th inning. They're gonna let Bibby finish the 5th, and then they're gonna go to the bullpen. That's probably And they're making a bullpen change now instead of waiting for, Steven Vaught giving him a pat on the bat, Jose Ramirez giving him a pat on the bat. I think I would have let him continue the inning, but I get it. It's 2 outs. You don't wanna risk Detroit gaining a run, gaining any momentum. I get it. I would have let him finish the inning, but hey, I can't fault that decision. Yep. Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, but yeah. We will have the draft simulator. We'll have all this other good stuff next Saturday. No more NHL previews, so you'll get the receiver rankings, you'll get an NBA Eastern Conference preview, and I did do my NBA mock, so that is up. The NBA mock draft that I made for 2025, that is up. Um, I have the number one pick. I have the Brooklyn Nets taking Cooper Flag out of Duke. I have the Clippers picking Ace Bailey, number two overall. There's no seniors in the first round of my mock. You're going to hate it. I think there's one junior, there were zero seniors, and there were mainly freshmen and sophomores in the first round. International players and freshmen and sophomores composed of 19 of the 29 of the 31st round picks for the NBA this year. So, yeah, you're not gonna like it. I'm not gonna talk about it, but yeah, I got that up this week. I was actually working on that during the Lions Seahawks game because I was like, you know what? I want to get an NBA mock up before the NBA season starts. But we have 2 weeks. NBA doesn't start until October 24th this year. So we can preview the Eastern Conference next week and we can update our audience on the MLB playoffs. And we can also talk about the wide receivers. So we got a lot we're going to talk about next week. But yeah, we've been on the air since 10 a.m., 3 hours, 42 minutes. Well, this is the third live stream we've done, but we've been on the air for like 5 hours. But Cade Smith, really good ERA. He's going to come in to get the last out. That's Joseph Potter. I'm Chris Ransom. We're signing off.